Chapter 1. During the mock exam, I was reported for cheating just because I glanced at my digital watch. The school is giving me a major demerit and revoking my guaranteed admission, the Dean of Academics said with a look of regret. Lin Wan, how could you bring a cheating device into the exam hall? As I watched Zhang Yang walk past the window outside, it suddenly all made sense. It's about the guaranteed admission spot, isn't it? The Dean of Academic Affairs was stunned. There's only one guaranteed admission spot to Tsinghua or Peking University this year. Zhang Yang's father is the vice principal, so the spot has to go to him. That's why you have to get rid of me, right? He said awkwardly that it wasn't true. I smiled. For 3 years, I've been top of my class every single time, winning so many competition awards I've lost count. And Zhang Yang, his grades can't even crack the top 50 in our year, but he's got a well-connected father, so I guess I deserve to be slandered. I took off my school ID badge and placed it on the desk. You don't need to expel me, I'll leave on my own. 1. The mock exam results were just released, and once again, I was ranked first in my grade. Before I could even feel happy about it, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Li, came to find me. Lin Wan, come with me to the dean's office. Her expression was complex, a mix of regret and resignation. What's wrong? You'll find out when we get there. Without giving it much thought, I followed her up to the third floor of the administration building. I pushed open the door to the academic affairs office. 2 people were sitting inside. It was Dean Wang Desheng and Vice Principal Zhang Jianguo. Dean Wang spoke first, his tone surprisingly mild. Lin Wan, the reason we've asked you here today is because someone reported you for using an electronic device during the exam. Some classmates have reported that you've been glancing at your watch repeatedly. It looks suspicious. I looked down at my digital watch. It was black, with a plastic case, and the strap was worn out. Sir/ma'am, it's just a regular digital watch. It only tells the time. Director Wang didn't respond. Instead, he took a piece of paper from his drawer and slid it across the desk to me. This is an anonymous report. Take a look. The letter stated, during the comprehensive science exam, Lin Wan repeatedly checked the smartwatch on her wrist. Suspected of receiving answers, her usual score is around 280. But this time she scored 298. Such a drastic improvement is abnormal. We request the school to conduct a thorough investigation. I stared at the letter and nearly laughed in disbelief. I scored 291 on the science section last month. Is it really so strange that I improved by 7 points this time? Director Wang furrowed his brow. Calm down. The school received a report, so we have to follow procedure. Going through the motions, my voice rose. Based on a single anonymous letter, Vice Principal Zhang, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the desk, his tone measured and unhurried. Lin Wan, you're a good student, and the school doesn't want to make things difficult for you, but rules are rules. Checking your watch repeatedly during an exam can easily be misinterpreted. Does checking your watch count as cheating? Not exactly, but, he paused. All the other students are focused on their papers. What will they think if they see you constantly looking at your wrist? For the sake of fairness, we need to look into this properly. I took a deep breath. A thought suddenly flashed through my mind. At the start of this semester, the grade level announced there was only one guaranteed admission spot to Tsinghua or Peking University. I'm ranked first overall, and it's not like I've only topped the class once since starting high school. I've held the top spot in my grade across dozens of exams. Big and small. I've also won several provincial-level first prizes in competitions. In the entire grade, no one could compete with me, except for one person, Zhang Yang. Even though his grades weren't even in the top 50 of the grade, forget about guaranteed admission to Tsinghua or Peking University. He'd be lucky to even make the cutoff for a first-tier university, but his father is the vice principal. Can I see the exam hall surveillance footage? The camera should have a clear view of my seat, so you can see exactly what my watch looks like. Director Wang and Vice Principal Zhang exchanged a quick glance. Director Wang cleared his throat. The surveillance cameras in that exam hall just happened to be out of order. The equipment is old and was under maintenance. They probably had that excuse ready to go from the start. Vice Principal Zhang sighed and adopted a grave, earnest expression. Lin Wan, you're still young, and you have your whole future ahead of you. As for this matter, the school has completed its investigation. The evidence is conclusive, and disciplinary action is unavoidable. However, if you're willing to write a sincere letter of self-criticism, the school might consider reducing your punishment from a formal demerit to a warning. A warning won't go on your permanent record, so it won't affect your college entrance exams. What about the early admission spot? I asked. Vice Principal Zhang looked at me as if I were a naive child. The early admission spot has already been revoked. It's school policy. Anyone caught cheating on an exam automatically loses their eligibility. There's no room for negotiation on this. I didn't cheat. Whether I cheated or not isn't for you to decide. Vice Principal Zhang's voice turned cold. Lin Wan, let me be perfectly clear with you. Your best option right now is to write a self-criticism, admit your mistake, and try to get a lighter punishment. That way, you can still take the college entrance exam normally. If you keep being stubborn and get a formal demerit on your record, what university would want you? I won't write a self-criticism. I didn't cheat. I demand this be reported to the Education Bureau and request a third-party investigation. Vice Principal Zhang's face darkened completely. Lin Wan, think carefully. Going against the school won't do you any good. I'm not trying to go against anyone. I just want my name cleared. Director Wang quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Lin Wan, just listen to Vice Principal Zhang's advice. Write a self-criticism, and this whole matter will be behind you. You're still young. Don't let a moment of impulse ruin your future prospects. For now, let's handle this matter internally within the school. You should go back to class. As for the self-criticism, take some more time to think it over. His tone was clearly an attempt to paper over the cracks. I know I can't win this fight. Chapter 2. As I walked into the classroom, the noisy chatter suddenly died down. Several pairs of eyes turned my way. Some held sympathy. Others were just watching for the drama, and a few I was never close with had a glint of schadenfreude in their eyes. My desk mate, Fang Yuan, was the first one to rush over. Wan, she grabbed my hand, her voice dropping to a whisper. What's going on? I heard someone reported you for cheating. Is it true? It's true, Fang Yuan cursed under her breath. Who reported you? I didn't say a word, just glanced toward the back row. Zhang Yang wasn't in his seat. Fang Yuan followed my gaze, and her face instantly went pale. Was it Zhang Yang? Fang Yuan opened her mouth as if to speak, but in the end, the words never came. She let out a sigh and sat down. The classmate beside me pretended to be reading, but kept stealing glances in my direction out of the corner of their eye. Someone in the back row was muttering, their voice low but just loud enough to hear. Hey, did you hear? Zhang Yang got the guaranteed admission spot. Seriously. His grades are terrible. Well, his dad's the vice principal. He can give it to whoever he wants. That's so unfair to Lin Wan. I pretended not to hear. Fang Yuan turned her head and shot a glare behind her. Have you quite finished? It fell silent behind her, but that silence was more uncomfortable than the talking had been. The first class was Chinese. The teacher walked in, glanced at me with a complicated look in his eyes. He didn't mention the incident, but for the entire lesson, he didn't call on me to answer a single question. He used to call on me in every single class. Now, I feel like I'm invisible. The same thing happened in the following classes. No one spoke to me, except for Fang Yuan. A few classmates who used to be on good terms with me would walk right past me between classes without even saying hello. After third period, I went to get some water. As I walked up to the water cooler, I ran into Zhang Yang. He was standing in the hallway chatting with a few other guys, holding a thermos, with a big, bright smile on his face. When he saw me, the corner of his mouth lifted into a smile. Hey, Lin Wan, heard you're refusing to write that self-criticism. I screwed the cap back on my bottle and turned to leave. He blocked my way, his eyes brimming with smug satisfaction. Lin Wan, I've actually always admired you. Top grades, competition awards, first in the year. But then again, he paused for a moment. In this world, good grades alone won't guarantee you success. What do you want to say? Let me be frank. Save your breath. If you don't write that self-criticism, the punishment will be a formal demerit on your permanent record. When college admissions roll around, no reputable university will touch you. He took another sip from his water glass, his posture as relaxed as if he were in his own living room. Oh, by the way, thanks for the recommendation spot. I tightened my grip on the cup lid. Zhang Yang, you think you've won, haven't I? He spread his hands. Your spot is gone, and you've got that disciplinary mark. My spot is locked in, and you still have to take the Gaokao. and then hope a university will even want you. He leaned in a little closer, lowering his voice. Lin Wan, take my advice, just write a self-criticism, admit your mistake, get the punishment reduced to a warning, and everyone's happy. If you keep being stubborn, you're only hurting yourself. With a father who works in a factory and a mother who's a cashier, what makes you think you can fight me with that? He picked up his water cup and sauntered off. The boys behind him joined in the laughter. Zhang Yang, you're such a jerk. I'm just telling the truth. The laughter drifted into her ears, sharp as needles. I stood there, my hands trembling uncontrollably, not afraid. It is hatred. Chapter 3. During the second class in the afternoon, the school announced all teachers and students were to assemble on the sports field for a study discipline rectification meeting. On the field, over 1,000 students and staff stood in formation by class. A banner was hung across the stage that read, "Uphold exam integrity, purify the campus environment." Vice Principal Zhang stepped onto the stage, dressed in a suit and tie, his expression stern. He cleared his throat and spoke into the microphone, his voice amplified by the loudspeakers across the entire sports field. Students, a serious case of exam cheating has recently occurred at our school. Lin Wan, a student from Class 1, Grade 12, used a smartwatch to illicitly receive answers during the first mock exam. Her actions were egregious and have had a profoundly negative impact. The school has taken serious disciplinary action, issuing her a major demerit and revoking her guaranteed university admission. A dead silence fell over the sports field. Over 1,000 pairs of eyes turned in unison toward where I stood. I stood in the line, ramrod straight. Let this be a lesson to all students, Vice Principal Zhang's voice continued. Cheating on an exam is a matter of character. It reflects a person's moral bottom line. Our school cultivates individuals with both integrity and ability, not just exam-taking scum. Fang Yuan stood beside me, trembling with rage, her lips pale. How could he say that? How could he? I stayed silent. Her nails dug into her palms, breaking the skin. After the assembly, each class was led back to their rooms. On the way back to the classroom, someone from the neighboring class line whispered, "That's her, right? Yeah, that's Lin Wan. I heard she used to be the top student in her grade." The top student cheated. Seriously, who knows? The voices weren't loud, but every word was crystal clear. I went back to the classroom and took my seat. The classroom was very quiet. Everyone kept their heads down, pretending to be busy with their own work. Zhang Yang glanced back from the front row, looked in my direction, a smile playing on his lips. Then he turned back and said something to the person next to him, and the two of them laughed together. The laughter wasn't loud, but in the quiet classroom, it was jarringly sharp. I lowered my head and stared at the textbook on the desk. I couldn't absorb a single word. My phone vibrated. A message from my mom. Wan, the school wants to see us. Your dad took time off work. We're heading over now. Before long, they arrived at the school. My dad was wearing a set of work clothes, faded from washing, having just rushed over from the factory. Dark circles shadowed the skin beneath his eyes. My mom wore an old padded jacket, her hair tied back hastily, clutching a cloth bag in her hand. They were waiting at the school gate. When I came out, my mother's eyes welled up with tears. First, I walked into the administration office, and it was still just Director Wang and Vice Principal Zhang. Lin Wan's parents, please, have a seat. My mother didn't sit down. She remained standing beside me. My father didn't sit down either. He looked at Director Wang, his voice hoarse. Director Wang, what's wrong with my daughter? Director Wang sighed and explained the disciplinary action. After finishing, he added, Mr./Mrs. Lin, the school is just following the rules. Please don't be too upset. This disciplinary action won't affect the college entrance exam. Even though the guaranteed admission is off the table, Lin Wan's grades are excellent. She can still get into a good university on her own merit. My father fell silent for a moment. Director Wang, I just want to ask one thing. What evidence do you have to prove? My daughter cheated, a classmate reported it, and the invigilator saw it too. I'm asking for evidence. My father's voice grew louder. Where's the surveillance footage, the physical evidence, that smartwatch? Show it to me. Director Wang hemmed and hawed. Vice Principal Zhang spoke up. Please calm down. The school has conducted an investigation, and the findings are conclusive. If you disagree with the school's decision, you may file an appeal through the proper channels. An appeal? My Mother suddenly interjected, her voice trembling. Vice Principal Zhang, where exactly are we supposed to appeal? To the Education Bureau. Isn't it true that you have connections there? Vice Principal Zhang's expression darkened. Ma'am, you need to watch your tone. My mother's tears began to fall. My daughter has been wronged. You won't even give us an explanation, and now you're telling me to watch my tone. Director Wang quickly tried to smooth things over. Mrs. Lin, please, let's all calm down and talk this through. My daughter has been the top student in her grade for 3 years straight. She wins so many competition awards it's almost routine. Why on earth would she need to cheat? Vice Principal Zhang let out a cold, mocking laugh. Just because a student gets good grades, parent, doesn't mean they can't cheat. Some people are just greedy, never satisfied with their scores, and resort to underhanded tricks. My father suddenly roared, his eyes bloodshot, glaring fixedly at Vice Principal Zhang. Bullshit, you accuse my daughter of cheating, show me the proof. If you can't, then you're framing her. I stood by, watching it all, and it felt like a knife had been plunged into my heart. My parents have been decent, honest people their whole lives and have never had a cross word with anyone. Today, for my sake, my father swore at someone, and my mother wept. I couldn't take it anymore. I tore off my school badge and slammed it on the table. Everyone in the office was stunned. It's just a guaranteed admission spot. I don't want it anymore. I'm not studying here anymore either. Chapter 4. After leaving the dean's office, my parents were silent. My mother was still wiping away tears, and my father walked ahead, his back hunched heavily. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry, I said. My father stopped, turned around, and looked at me. What are you apologizing for? You didn't do anything wrong. But, no buts, my dad cut me off. If you don't want to study there anymore, then you don't have to. I can support you. My mom took my hand. Wan, then where will we go to school? Let me see if I can find it. When I got home, I shut myself in my room and started making phone calls. I called every single top high school in the city. Hello, I'm a student from Yueying Middle School, and I'd like to inquire about transferring. I'm sorry, but our school is full. Hello, I was calling to inquire about a transfer. What's your name? Lin Wan. From Yueying. I'm sorry, we cannot accept you. Hello, so you're the one with the disciplinary record. Our school doesn't accept students with that kind of history. One after another, nothing but rejections. By the time I made the 7th call, my hands were trembling. It wasn't exhaustion. It was fear that no school would accept me, fear that my life would be ruined just like that. I took a deep breath and dialed the next number. Hello, 7th Middle School. Hello, teacher, I'd like to inquire about transferring schools. Which school are you transferring from? Yueying Middle School. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What's your name? Lin Wan from Yueying High School. Yes. Is it true about the disciplinary action? I tightened my grip on the phone. Teacher, I didn't cheat. There was a silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. Hold on a moment. After a moment, a different voice came on the line. It was an old woman, her voice slow and deliberate, but steady. I'm Principal Zhou, from No. 7 Middle School. You must be Lin Wan. Yes, Principal Zhou, I've heard about your situation. Tell me the truth. Did you cheat or not? No, I didn't. All right, come by tomorrow to take care of the paperwork. I was stunned. Principal Zhou, aren't you going to ask about the disciplinary action? If you say there isn't one, then there isn't. I trust you. Tears welled up in my eyes all at once. Thank you so much. No need to thank me. Just focus on studying hard when you get here. While our No. 7 high school might not be as prestigious as Yueying, our teachers are all very dedicated. After hanging up the phone, I rushed out to tell my parents. My mom was crying again, but this time, they were tears of joy. My dad sat on the sofa, lit a cigarette, his hands still trembling. All right, as long as someone's willing to take it, that's good enough. The next day, I went to No. 7 Middle School to handle the transfer procedures. The school was on the outskirts of town, an hour away by bus. The classroom building was old and the playground was unpaved, but everything was kept clean. Principal Zhou was waiting for me in her office, with her gray hair and reading glasses. She looked quite ordinary. She looked over my report card, then at the disciplinary notice, and let out a sigh. What a shame, with such excellent results. Principal Zhou, I really didn't. I know. She waved her hand dismissively. But the disciplinary record is in your file. It could affect your college admissions. You need to be prepared for that. I'm not afraid. All right, she said with a smile. Then come and study here. The facilities aren't the best, but the teachers and students are great. You'll see for yourself. After finishing the paperwork, she took me to see the classroom. It was between classes. A few students in the hallway spotted me and looked over curiously. Principal Zhou clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. Class, this is Lin Wan, a new transfer student. She'll be joining class 2, grade 12. Please make her feel welcome. A girl with short hair was the first to rush over. Hi, I'm Chen Cheng. Which school did you transfer from? Yueying. That's a top-tier school. What brings you to our place? Someone tugged at her sleeve. Chen Cheng realized her mistake and quickly fell silent. It's fine, I said. I just wanted a change of scenery. Chen Cheng smiled. All right. We'll be classmates from now on. Come on, I'll show you to our classroom. She pulled me along, chattering away non-stop. Our school might be a bit run down, but the teachers are great, especially our math teacher, old Zhao. He explains problems so clearly. As I followed her, a wave of relief washed over me. Here, no one looked at me with strange or judgmental eyes. No one whispered a word. No one took pleasure in their misfortune. Perfect. Chapter 5. The facilities at No. 7 Middle School are no match for Yueying's. The desks and chairs in the classrooms are uneven. The blackboard has a terrible glare. The dorm rooms are shared by 8 people, and there's no hot water in the winter. But the teachers here are truly exceptional. Old Zhao, the math teacher in his 50s, never glanced at his lesson plans during class. He could explain a single problem using 5 different methods. The first time he saw me, he looked over my diagnostic test, and his eyes lit up. So you're Lin Wan, the transfer student from Yueying. You've got a solid foundation, but some of your problem-solving habits need work. Fix those, and you can go even higher. He never brought up the disciplinary action, focusing only on my studies. Our English teacher, Ms. Sun, was young, fresh out of college, and incredibly dedicated in class. Knowing I struggled with English essays, she assigned me 2 extra each week and graded them even more meticulously than the regular homework. My desk mate, Chen Cheng, was a real sweetheart. On the very first day, she gave me the lowdown on everyone in the class. The guy in front of you is Li Hao. He's terrible at math, but his Chinese is top-notch. The one behind you with glasses is Wang Siki. She struggles with the science subjects, but her English is the best in our grade. How do you know so much? I asked. Well, duh, I've been here for 2.5 years. She paused and lowered her voice. Lin Wan, be honest with me. Why did you really transfer schools? I looked at her. You really want to know? I was falsely accused of cheating, got a major demerit on my record, and lost my guaranteed university admission spot. I just couldn't stay there anymore. Chen Cheng was taken aback for a moment. Then, she reached out and patted my shoulder. Oh, I see. Don't worry. No one at No. 7 High will wrongfully accuse you. Our school might not be the best, but the teachers are all decent people. I gave a slight smile. I came in first in the grade for the first monthly exam, beating the second-place student by over 40 points. The day the results were posted, the whole grade went wild. Is the new kid just that good? They were already top of their class at Yueying. Coming here is like bringing a gun to a knife fight, isn't it? So how did she end up at Qizhong? No idea. I heard something might have happened. Chen Cheng stepped in beside me. Why ask so many questions? Focus on your studies. Old Zhao made a point of mentioning it in class. Lin Wan did quite well on this exam. Everyone should try to learn from her, but don't be discouraged. Everyone has their own strengths. He phrased that very diplomatically, making sure no one felt slighted. I was truly grateful to him from the bottom of my heart. The days went by, one after another. In the second mock exam, I ranked 3rd in the entire city. In the 3rd mock exam, I came in first citywide. The day the results came out, old Zhao called me into his office. Lin Wan, with these scores, you have a real shot at Tsinghua or Peking University. But, he paused, that disciplinary record of yours might cause issues during the college admissions process. You need to be prepared for that. I know, so you have to do even better. So much better that every school will be fighting to have you, and that mark on your record won't matter. I will. Old Zhao nodded, took a notebook from the drawer, and handed it to me. Here's a collection of final math problems from the college entrance exams I've compiled over the years. Take it and work through them. I opened it to find page after page of dense, handwritten notes, each problem accompanied by a detailed solution. I clutched the notebook tightly, feeling a warmth behind my eyes. 1 month before the college entrance exam, Fang Yuan sent me a message. Wan, Zhang Yang got his early admission to XX University. He's been spamming the group chat with red packets. So obnoxious. Then she sent another message. How have you been lately? How's everything at No. 7 High? I typed back, all good. I came in first in the city on the third mock exam. Fang Yuan sent a whole string of exclamation marks. Incredible, you've got to ace the Gaokao and become the top scorer. That'll show them. I smiled, put down my phone, and went back to my homework. 3 days before the college entrance exams, the school let out for break. Principal Zhou called me into his office and handed me an envelope. What's this? I had Chen Qing draw up a route map for you to scope out the exam venue, since you live far away. You'll stay in the school dormitory for the exam period. I've arranged for a room to be reserved for you. Principal Zhou, that's enough now. Just focus on doing your best in the exam. She patted my hand, her eyes welling up. Lin Wan, you're the most promising student in Qizhong High's history to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. I don't want to pressure you, but remember this, no matter what score you get, Qizhong will always be your home. I nodded emphatically. The day I went home, my mom made dumplings for me. My dad sat beside me, watching me eat without saying a word. After finishing his meal, he stood up, pulled a red envelope from his pocket, and pressed it into my hand. Take this, after your exams, go buy yourself something nice to eat. Dad, you really don't have to. Take it. The red envelope was thin, but I knew it contained half a month's wages. Clutching the envelope, I felt a lump in my throat. Dad, I won't let you down on the exam. I know you won't, son. Chapter 6. The weather was perfect on the 2 days of the college entrance exams. As I walked into the examination hall, my mind was completely at ease. I've worked through those problems countless times. I've memorized those concepts over and over. I won't lose. During the first Chinese exam, as I wrote my essay, I thought of every single day from those past 8 months. I thought of my father's white hair, my mother's red-rimmed eyes, the envelope Principal Zhou handed me, old Zhao's notebook, and the route map Chen Qing drew. I remembered Zhang Yang holding a water cup and saying, with a father who works in a factory and a mother who's a cashier, what makes you think you can compete with me? I wrote 4 characters. Hard work pays off. After finishing the last exam, I walked out of the examination hall, and the sunlight was blinding. My mom was waiting at the school gate. She started crying the moment she saw me. You've lost weight. So much weight. I gave her a hug and said, Mom, I did really well on the exams. Chen Qing ran over and threw her arms around me. Lin Wan, you're finally done with your exams. I didn't dare bother you these past few days. You didn't have exams either. Done and done. But I'm sure I didn't do as well as you. She grabbed my arm and pulled me along. Come on. My mom said once you're done with exams, you're coming to my place for dinner. She's making braised pork belly for you. I looked back at my mom. My mom smiled and said, go on, just be back early. That evening, I ate 3 bowls of rice at Chen Cheng's house. Chen Cheng's mom kept putting food in my bowl, saying, eat more, now that the exams are over, don't dwell on it. Chen Cheng's dad poured a drink beside them. Lin Wan, how did the exam go? Not bad, that's good enough. We did our best. After all, when I got home, I lay down in bed and slept more soundly than I ever had before. No alarm clock, no alarm ringing. Slept a solid 12 hours after the college entrance exams ended. A long wait began. The results won't be out for another 2 weeks. For those 2 weeks, I helped my parents with chores at home, and occasionally went to Qizhong High to help Principal Zhou organize documents. She asked me, are you nervous? A little. Don't be nervous. No matter what score you get, you'll always be Qizhong's pride. Fang Yuan messages me from time to time. Wan, have you tried estimating your score? No, I don't want to. You have such a good mindset. If I were you, I'd have gone crazy by now. I didn't reply. It's not that I'm calm, it's that I'm scared. If the estimate turns out bad, these past 8 months will have been a total waste. Might as well just wait. The night before the grades were posted, I couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned. Unable to drift off, my mind was flooded with images, Vice Principal Zhang's cold sneer in the administration office. The sound of the disciplinary decision being read aloud at the assembly, Zhang Yang holding his water cup, my dad's reddened eyes as he roared, "That's bullshit," and then there was Principal Zhou's line, "If you say it's not there, then it's not there." I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, everything will be settled. On the day the results were posted, I was at home helping my mother prepare the vegetables, Chen Cheng called, her voice sharp enough to shatter glass. "Lin Wan, check your score, check it now." My hands trembling, I logged into the system. I entered my exam admission ticket number and ID card number. The page loads, then, a line of text appears, "Your score has been withheld." I was stunned. "Chen Cheng, I can't find it." "What? Why?" It says, "The results have been withheld." There was a second of silence on the other end of the line, and then Chen Cheng screamed, "Lin Wan, only the top 50 students in the province get their scores hidden. You're in the top 50. My mind went completely blank. Top 50 in the province. Chapter 7. I hung up the phone and sank into the chair. My hands still trembling. My mom came over. "What's wrong? Did you get the results?" "No, they said the scores have been withheld." My mom didn't understand. She panicked. "What does blocked mean? Is there a problem?" "No, Mom, it means I did so well on the exam that my score was withheld." My mom froze on the spot, then she started to cry. My dad rushed out of the room. "What's wrong? What happened?" Wan says she did so well on the exam that her score was withheld." My dad stood in the doorway, frozen for a long moment, then he crouched down, covered his face, and wept. 10 minutes later, Chen Cheng called again. "Lin Wan, you're number 1 in the province. You scored 712, the top scorer in the entire province." "How do you know that?" "My cousin is interning at the Education Bureau. He checked for me. Your score was hidden because you're the top scorer." The Zhuang Yuan. Tears welled up in my eyes all at once. "Really?" "Yes, really. I've already informed Principal Zhou. She's on her way to the school." After hanging up the phone, I held my mother and cried for a long time. "It's not sadness, it's joy." Principal Zhou's call came right after. The old lady's voice was trembling. "Lin Wan, you're the top scorer. You're the provincial champion." "Principal Zhou, I got in, I got in, I got in," she repeated several times, and then began to cry. "In the 50 years since our school, no, 7 High, was founded, we finally have a top scholar." That afternoon, the admissions officers from Peking and Tsinghua University came directly to my house. They arrived in a black sedan, parked at the mouth of the alley, drawing a crowd of curious neighbors. The admissions officer, a man in his 40s named Mr. Lu, wore glasses and was exceptionally kind. "Congratulations, Lin Wan, on achieving the top score in the province. Tsinghua and Peking University warmly welcome you. You can choose any major, and we will cover all your scholarship needs." My mother, flustered, poured some water. "Please, have some water, teacher." My father sat beside her, looking completely at a loss for what to do with his hands. I looked at Professor Lu and said, "I want to study medicine." "Excellent. The clinical medicine programs at Tsinghua and Peking University are the best in the country. If you come, we will give you our full support." I nodded. I signed the letter of intent. After Mr. Lu left, my phone was blowing up. Relatives, classmates, reporters, training institutions from who knows where. I didn't answer, but there was one call I picked up. "Hello, is this Lin Wan?" "This is the new principal of Yueying High School, Principal Chen. Congratulations on being the top scorer. As a graduate of our school, we'd like to invite you back to share your experience with the current students." I cut him off. "Principal Chen, I'm not a student of your school. The disciplinary action you gave me is still on my record." "That disciplinary record has been expunged." "When was it expunged?" "Just today." I laughed. "Principal Chen, your school produced the top scorer, and you want to use me for promotional recruitment, right?" No, we are genuinely sincere." "Sincerity?" My voice turned icy. "Where was your sincerity when you wronged me? When my father begged you to revoke the punishment, you wouldn't even let him through the door. Now that I'm the top scorer, you suddenly remember me." "Lin Wan, please, let me explain." "Save it. My school now is No. 7 High School, and my principal's name is Zhou. You're Yueying Academy. You don't deserve the title." I hung up the phone and blocked the number. Chapter 88. The next day, a reporter from the provincial TV station came to interview me. The interview was held at No. 7 Middle School, where Principal Zhou had specially tidied up the conference room. The camera was pointed at me, and a microphone was thrust forward. Lin Wan, congratulations on being the top scorer in the province. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the audience? I looked into the camera. I want to say that I was wronged. The reporter was stunned. This past January, during the mock exams, I was reported for cheating with a smartwatch just because I glanced at my digital watch. The school gave me a major demerit and revoked my guaranteed admission. I paused for a moment, and the person who reported me was the vice principal's son. His grades weren't even in the top 50 of our grade. But after my admission was cancelled, he got the spot. The room fell silent. The reporter opened his mouth. Do you have any proof of what you're saying? Yes, I have the letter of complaint right here. Their story about the surveillance camera being broken is a fabrication. That so-called smartwatch is just a regular digital watch bought from a supermarket for 79 yuan. I took the watch from my pocket and placed it on the table. It's black, with a plastic case. The band is all scuffed up. I've worn this watch for 3 years. No Bluetooth, no internet. It just tells the time. The reporter picked up the watch and looked at it, their expression changing. Do you have any other witnesses? Yes, the person who wrote the letter of complaint was Zhang Yang's desk mate. He has agreed to come forward and testify. I took a deep breath. I'm not saying all this today out of revenge. I just want to say that some people, relying on their power and influence, think they can casually ruin a student's future. But I refuse to accept that fate. I became the top scorer not because of you, but because of myself, because of the teachers at No. 7 High School, and because of my parents. I looked into the camera. I hope the relevant authorities will get to the bottom of this, not for my sake, but so that no one else will be wrongfully accused like I was. After the interview aired, the internet exploded. Trending number 1, hashtag Gaokao top scorer was falsely accused of cheating. Hashtag. Trending number 2, hashtag vice principal's son at Yueying High School gets guaranteed admission. Hashtag. Trending at number 3, hashtag. Lin Wan 712 points. Hashtag. The comments section is flooded with hate. Investigate. This must be thoroughly investigated. Is this the true face of a top-tier school, slandering a real academic star to make way for someone with connections? Lin Wan is incredible, to be falsely accused and still come out as the top scorer. Now that's real talent. How could they possibly claim a 79 yuan digital watch is a smartwatch? The nerve. Someone even dug up Zhang Yang's social media account. It was filled with him showing off his early admission offer, his new sneakers, and photos from his trips. The caption reads, "Feels great not having to take the Gaokao." The comments section is in shambles. Of course you don't have to take the Gaokao. Your dad got rid of the competition for you. Disgusting. Scumbag. The Education Bureau swiftly formed an investigation team overnight and dispatched it to Yueying High School. On the third day, the investigation results were released. The investigation found that Vice Principal Zhang Jianguo committed serious violations in the evaluation of guaranteed admission spots. He instructed others to fabricate evidence of student Lin Wan cheating on an exam, abused his authority for personal gain, and engaged in corruption. He has been expelled from the party, removed from his position, and the case has been transferred to judicial authorities for handling. Academic Dean Wang Desheng has been given a major demerit and transferred out of his teaching position. Zhang Yang's guaranteed admission qualification has been revoked. Zhang Yang's desk mate, Zhao, has been given a formal warning for assisting in fabricating the complaint letter. Chapter 9. The news broke while I was at No. 7 High School, helping Principal Zhou sort through the freshman roster. Chen Cheng burst into the office, waving her phone and shouting, "Lin Wan, Zhang Yang's guaranteed admission is gone. His father's been arrested." I took the phone to see for myself. The news report read, Zhang Jianguo, vice principal of Yueying Middle School, has been lawfully arrested. Just below it was another item, Zhang Yang's guaranteed university admission has been revoked. Since he didn't take the college entrance exam, he currently has no school to attend. Chen Cheng clapped beside me, saying, "Serves him right. That'll teach him to be so arrogant." "Lin Wan, you're amazing." I just smiled and said nothing. My phone vibrated. Fang Yuan sent a message. "Wan, did you see, Zhang Yang is finished." When his dad was arrested, He was still at home playing video games, completely clueless. He only found out something was wrong after his guaranteed admission was revoked. Now he doesn't even have a school to go to, he has to repeat a year. But what school would dare accept someone who cheated their way into a guaranteed spot? I replied with a single word, yeah. I sent another message, thank you, Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan replied, what's there to thank, you deserve to win, principal. Zhou walked over and placed a glass of water on my desk. Lin Wan, are you alright? I'm fine, Principal Zhou. Good, she said, patting my shoulder. Once you're at Tsinghua or Peking University, study hard and become a great doctor. I will. Before the semester started, I received my acceptance letter from Tsinghua University. Holding that piece of paper, I stood at the entrance of No. 7 High School and took a picture. I posted on my social media with the caption, "A new beginning, Chen." Chen was the first to like it, commenting, "Ah, congratulations." Fang Yuan liked it too, saying, "You deserve it." My mom looked over the acceptance letter again and again, then carefully placed it in a plastic bag and tucked it away in the very back of the wardrobe. "Mom, why are you hiding it away so carefully? This is our family treasure." My dad stood by, chuckling with a simple, good-natured grin. On the day I left for Beijing, Principal Zhou came to see me off. She pulled a red envelope from her pocket and pressed it into my hand. "Take it, make sure you eat properly over there, don't scrimp and save." "Principal Zhou, I really can't accept this." "Take it," she said, glaring at me. "You're my student, if I'm giving it to you, you take it." My eyes welled up. "Principal Zhou, thank you, don't thank me, you earned this yourself." She paused. "Once you're at Tsinghua or Peking University, study hard and make our No. 7 High School proud." As the train began to move, I saw Principal Zhou still standing on the platform, waving to me. Her figure grew smaller and smaller, until it finally became a mere. I leaned back in my seat, watching the fields fly past the window. I remembered a year ago, when I stood in the administration office, took off my school badge, and slammed it on the desk. Everyone thought I was finished. What future could a disciplined student, transferring to a rundown school like No. 7 High, possibly have? But I wasn't finished. I came out top of the exam. I went to Tsinghua and Peking University. Those who tried to ruin me ended up ruining themselves. Zhang Yang doesn't even have a school to go to now, and his father's in prison. Director Wang was transferred to teach in the countryside. Yueying High School's reputation has taken a real hit. They didn't even fill their enrollment quota this year, and here I am, standing at a brand new starting point. The sunlight outside the window was just perfect. I closed my eyes and smiled. What goes around comes around. I believe in that saying. Story 2. My brother's girlfriend demanded an apartment and a bride price for marriage. Right before getting the marriage license, she claimed her family hid the household register. They demanded an additional 1 million yuan from our family. All I said was, "You can also get your marriage license by obtaining a household registration certificate from the local police station." Is it her father who doesn't want her to get married? Or is it her own decision? The girl left in humiliation and anger, but she tragically died in a bus accident. The unborn child in her womb perished with her. From then on, my younger brother never mentioned her in our presence again, until the day I returned to my parents' home, heavy with child. He secretly poisoned my meal. I lay curled on the ground, blood pooling beneath me, clutching at his suit pants and begging him to save me. To save our unborn child. Does it hurt? Serafina suffered just like this. You and that bastard in your womb deserve to die, uncle, auntie. I want to register our marriage too, but my parents hid our household registration book. They said they'd let me in land and get married if we gave them another million. Serafina twisted her fingers nervously, on the verge of tears. Her parents looked torn. They were too embarrassed to say it outright. Buying their marital home and preparing the 1 million dowry had already drained all their savings. Now, right before the marriage registration, they suddenly demanded another million. Where would an ordinary family get that kind of money? Little brother hugged Serafina. Sis, what should I do? He always does this, coming to me for help whenever he's in trouble. I'd always step up and take all the blows for him. When we were kids, he'd come home bruised and battered. Sobbing his heart out to me, I'd grab the broom and chase those bullies until they begged for mercy on their knees. He stood by, savoring the sweet taste of vengeance. Though I was a few years his senior, even the bravest can't withstand brute force. I only won because I fought like a madman. Even though I won, I was covered in bruises and ached for days afterward under the weight of my family's expectant gazes. I raised my hand and smacked my little brother upside the head. Everyone was stunned. "Well, sis, why'd you hit me?" Landon covered his face in shock, unable to believe his doting sister would actually slap him. "You deserved that. You're grown adults now. As a man, you should be protecting women, not knocking up your college girlfriend. Where's your sense of responsibility?" Though my words were directed at my brother, Serafina caught the unintended sting too. My oblivious brother missed the nuance, while Serafina hung her head in quiet guilt. "Don't be afraid, Serafina, we've got your back. You all discuss it first. I'm on board with whatever you decide." That 5-hour drive wore me out. "I'm heading to my room to rest." I gave Serafina's shoulder a reassuring pat, then retreated to my room under the family's stunned gazes. Just reincarnated, and already facing this mess. I first vented my anger by slapping Landon across the face, too, but that's nowhere near enough. I need to retreat and carefully plan my next move. To prepare for their winter break wedding, Mom and Dad gave the house a fresh coat of paint and bought new beds and sofas. Everything was perfectly ready, just counting down to the auspicious day on the second day of the Lunar New Year. Yet on their very first day back, they demanded an additional request. Despite already receiving both the wedding apartment and bride price, another $1,000,000 was now required. In my past life, I discreetly warned my younger brother behind the scenes, "You can also get your marriage license by obtaining a household registration certificate from the local police station." Is it her father who doesn't want her to get married, or is it her own decision? Her younger brother immediately turned to confront Serafina. "My sister says you don't want to register our marriage with me. Is that true?" Serafina stormed off in humiliation. My brother, in a fit of pique, didn't chase after her, but tragedy struck on her way home. She and her unborn child perished together in the accident. Through tears, I apologized to my younger brother. He flipped the table over, eyes bloodshot as he roared, "No one is ever to mention her name again." 3 years later, I returned to my parents' home with a swollen belly. Landon secretly poisoned my food. I curled up on the ground, blood pooling beneath me. I clutched at his suit pants, begging him to save me, to save our unborn child. "Does it hurt?" Serafina suffered just like this. "You and that bastard in your womb deserve to die." Now I finally understand. He's loathed me to the marrow all along, all these years of silent endurance, just waiting for me to get pregnant so I can experience that heart-wrenching agony at night. I was already in bed when Mom came in with a glass of milk. She watched me finish it, then lingered and sat right on the edge of my bed. "There's something off about Serafina. You don't think she'd trick Landon, do you?" Far from easy. My brother met Serafina on a high-speed train, among the sea of people. They happened to sit side by side. Serafina secretly snapped a photo of his profile with her phone, sent a voice message to her bestie. "That guy on the high-speed train is from Tsinghua University. His profile is literally killing me." Her little brother wasn't deaf. He heard everything. His ears turned red, frozen stiff with awkwardness. Serafina giggled, said to him with effortless grace, "Hey handsome, let's exchange WeChat contacts." Serafina's Xiaohongshu account meticulously documents the romantic first encounter between her and her younger brother. She continued sharing their romantic milestones with fans. From their first confession to dates and trips together, fans couldn't help but gush with envy. One longtime fan commented, "Wah, where's my handsome foreign prince with golden hair and blue eyes?" Serafina replied, "I'm way too petite for foreign gentlemen to handle," sent with a playful tongue-out emoji. As if sensing it was inappropriate, she quickly deleted the reply, but I happened to see it. Noticing my silence, Mom added, "Landon's thinking is just too naive. As his older sister, you should keep an eye on him more often. Experience really does give you sharp eyes." In my past life, it was her subtle hint that made me decide to have a talk with my brother. 3. But when I was poisoned, writhing in pain on the ground, with tears in their eyes, my parents pleaded, "Myra, don't blame Landon. He's suffering too. They didn't poison me, but they watched as I drew my last breath, and did nothing." At this thought, my tone turned icy. "Landon's about to get married. He's old enough to take responsibility for his own actions. Let's not meddle in this." Seeing I wouldn't budge, Mom said matter-of-factly, "How much do you have left? We're counting on you for this $1,000,000, so it all comes down to me again." "Mom, I'm completely broke. You know that, right? Your father and I barely scraped by to put you through college. We're just now paying off the mountain of debt we took on. Mother's weathered face twisted into a pained expression, every wrinkle telling its own story. In my past life, I was spared from witnessing my parents suffering, because they sent me away to get an education. While most girls from our village ended up working or marrying young, for this kindness, I willingly gave them everything I had, but now, I don't want to do that anymore. I kept scrolling through my phone without responding. Myra, now that you're working and know all these big shots, think of something, will you? Well, all the big bosses are loaded. If I become their mistress, 100K a year in allowance. Just a decade's commitment. Mother rose to her feet. Myra, how could you say such things? Catching a fleeting shadow by the doorway. Don't we still have that house back home? Selling it would cover the costs. There's no need to resort to selling our daughter. Sure enough, the next day, the younger brother discussed with their parents, we've still got that property in our hometown, right? Since we're not using it anyway, selling it could fetch us around $1 million or so. Serafina's parents said they're not spending this money, they're saving it for us. What a devoted son you are to your parents. You're squandering your ancestors' hard-earned property, I sneered inwardly while keeping a straight face. That day, he dragged his parents to list their house with the realtor, but his hesitant parents ultimately didn't go. On the third day, the dining table was filled with joyous energy. That's wonderful, Serafina. Are you expecting? Mom's voice was brimming with surprise. Even Dad, usually so stern, softened his expression. My younger brother carefully supported Serafina. That scatterbrain didn't even realize she was pregnant. I noticed it first. Serafina still seemed dazed by the pregnancy news, forcing a faint smile, not confirmed yet, could just be a false alarm. She then covered her mouth, retching twice. Her mother beamed, stroking Serafina's arm affectionately. Darling, I've been around long enough to know, you're definitely expecting. Sweetheart, don't you worry. When you marry into our family, I'll cherish you like my own daughter. I slowly tore apart the bread before me, loved like one's own flesh and blood. That didn't hurt much. My younger brother helped Serafina back to the house to rest. Mom sat beside me and served me more rice. Ever since that night, my parents have been giving me the silent treatment. If not for Serafina's presence, they probably wouldn't even feed me. Suddenly being so nice to me, I knew there was an ulterior motive. Myra, you've really gone above and beyond for your brother, handling both the money and effort. Everyone has moments when they're blinded by foolishness. If I'd been reborn earlier, I wouldn't have spent a single penny on them. In my past life, I spent so much money for the family, never received a single word of thanks, for, in their eyes, it was only natural for me to bleed myself dry for them. This lifetime, I refused to give them another penny, yet they still expect gratitude for my past generosity. People can be so ungrateful, now that you're about to become an aunt. If not for my sake then for the baby's, just consider it a loan from Mom. I'll pay you back when I have the money. I found it ridiculous. Mom, how could I possibly save any money these years? Haven't I been covering every household expense? When we helped brother buy his apartment last time, I told you clearly, that was all I had. Before Mother could respond, my brother stormed out with fury written across his face. Sis, how could you talk to Mom like that? You've changed since coming back. You weren't like this before, after being reborn. I've pondered countless times why I used to be so devoted to my family, only to be treated that way. Later I came to realize, had only focused on providing material support to my family, but forgotten the old saying, to alleviate poverty, first eliminate ignorance, to provide aid, first cultivate wisdom. I endlessly catered to my family's material needs, breeding their laziness. They never had to work hard or strive for anything, just reaching out their hands. They'd get whatever they desired. I gave, destroy it. I can understand my parents' ignorance, but my brother is supposed to be top of his class. Even he's like this. My heart has truly grown cold. I was wearing just a thin nightgown, standing in the living room facing the family's criticism. I felt nothing but heartbreak. A surge of inexplicable grievance stung my eyes with unshed tears. If I give someone $10, they'll thank me. But if I give them $10 every day, the moment I stop, they'll snap. Give me back my money. Tell me, whose money was it really? Dad couldn't take it anymore. Pointing at me, he yelled angrily, what the hell? I sent you to school so you could talk back to me. Get the hell out of this house. We might as well have never raised such an ungrateful wretch. I held back my tears and felt my tender heart refill with strength. They told me to get lost. Perfect, I'm long gone, finally free. My parents ended up selling our old family home. The house could have fetched over 900K, but in their rush for cash, my brother panicked and sold it for just 500K. They couldn't see the future, unaware this house would be demolished in a month, one unit trading for 4, but I knew better. I borrowed money from close friends and bought the property. A month later, the house got demolished. I opted for the demolition compensation, made 2 to 3 million bucks, sweet as honey. My parents couldn't come up with the full million, so they had to borrow from relatives and take out bank loans to scrape together the money, of course. This is what I heard from my cousin. She's 2 years younger than me, and since our families lived close by, we grew up together. We're closer than real sisters. When my younger brother killed me, she witnessed the whole thing from outside the door. She shoved him away, screaming, "Murderer," at him. She pulled out her phone to call emergency services. My brother saw red in that moment. Deciding to go all the way, he grabbed a hammer and smashed it violently against my cousin's head. Blood streamed down her forehead as she collapsed beside me. My mother went to their house to borrow money. She kept putting me down at her place. Auntie's family only had my younger female cousin. Mom always flaunted that I have a son, superiority over her. That sense of superiority peaked when my brother got into Tsinghua, growing more and more inflated, now suddenly lowering my head to borrow money from others. What irony. It's all Myra's fault. What's the point of having given birth to her if she won't even help her own brother? Does she have any humanity left? Auntie is completely impartial. Doesn't Myra give you 2,000 yuan every month for your retirement? Why do you still need money to help your younger brother get married? Is this what young people call a brother-obsessed person? My mom left empty-handed and ended up with nothing but trouble. When they held their wedding, I was there too. It was my younger brother who called me. "Sis, I'm getting married. You should come. Don't worry, I won't ask to borrow money from you." With that, they hung up the phone. "You ungrateful little brat," I laughed in bitter disbelief. "You've been living off me." "Not this time. No, getting upset now. I've spoiled you rotten, haven't I?" I arrived fashionably late, just as the banquet was about to begin. When Mom saw me, her smiling face instantly turned cold. Dad was entertaining guests and didn't even glance my way. Mom had already spread the word among all our relatives. What kind of sister shows up this late to her own brother's wedding? From what her mother said, Landon almost called it off because of her. That's what happens when girls get too educated. All that book learning makes them forget their own family. My father staggered toward me, reeking of alcohol. "Serafina, I need to have a word with you while we've got this chance." He slurred his words, repeating the same phrases over and over. Family should love and support each other. Those who won't listen to elders' advice will soon regret it. They brainwashed me relentlessly since childhood. As the older sister, you must always give way to your brother. We're incapable parents, Myra. Your brother will depend on you. The eldest sister must become his second mother, a sister who mothers her sibling. It ruined me. The current me can't stand others' lectures, ignore old folks' advice, stay happy all year. Oh come on, Dad, let's be real. I don't believe a single word you're saying now. My father raised his hand in anger, ready to strike me. I instantly grabbed his wrist to stop him. "Dad, causing a scene in public, you trying to make the evening news. I don't really care. But your son is a Tsinghua prodigy. Last time he made headlines was after the college entrance exams, and now it's for getting married before graduation." I chuckled. My father glared at me with bloodshot eyes, but ultimately lowered his hand. "Sister, if you look down on us now for being poor, just wait. My husband will start his own successful business within 3 years of graduation and become a listed company CEO. Don't come crying to us then." Serafina beamed with an irrepressible air of triumph. I know. 5. My cousin mentioned that after Serafina got married, she took a leave of absence from school to focus on her pregnancy at home. She dotes on her younger brother, and shows great filial piety to her parents-in-law. This further confirmed my suspicions. That person from my past life who looked down on my brother as poor trash, how could she ever marry him in peace, let alone dutifully serve his parents? She knew her younger brother became CEO just 3 years after graduation and believed she only needed to tough it out a few more years. After hardship comes sweetness, bathing in boundless riches. Little did she know, her brother's success wasn't his own doing. It's all thanks to me. In this lifetime, Without my financial backing and connections, he's nothing." Percy raised his glass. He placed his hand behind my seat, as if to encircle me. "That old fool. Once when I went to my younger brother's school to find him, he happened to run into me. He added me on WeChat, saying it would make it easier to communicate with parents about their children's school progress. I couldn't say no. After that, he kept asking me out under the pretense of discussing my brother's issues. He'd make inappropriate advances both overtly and covertly. With my brother at his mercy, I had to stomach my disgust and play along. After a few drinks tonight, he suddenly leaned his face close to mine. "Miss Myra, Landon is excelling at school, all thanks to your guidance as his elder sister." I quickly shifted my body away, staring at his armpit. I gagged twice behind my hand. My reaction made Percy self-conscious too. He lifted his elbow and gave it a sniff. "Doesn't smell." With that, he withdrew the arm that had been draped over the back of my chair, his expression dark as he filled the wine decanter before me to the brim, then raised it toward me. "There's an upcoming selection round for the college startup competition. I'm planning to have Landon participate." Took the wine glass and poured the entire contents over his head. The liquor trickled down his thinning hair onto his greasy, shiny face. He flew into a rage. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Are you trying to ruin your brother's future?" The hushed restaurant turned with disapproving glances. I dabbed my hands elegantly with a napkin and picked up my handbag. "Go ahead and finish him off if you dare. That'd be worthy of your Beast Professor title." The Beast Professor lived up to my expectations. He started giving Landon trouble the moment he got back that day. My brother slipped into the classroom right as the bell rang, got scolded by the professor. When answering questions in class, my responses were too brief and was told they were superficial and incomplete. Now I give thorough answers. Got criticized again for being too wordy and lacking conciseness. I chuckled. It completely stunned Landon. He used to be the professor's favorite student after preparing for so long. When everyone thought he was a shoo-in for the college entrepreneurship competition, yet the professor gave the spot to another student. Some classmates stood up for him, while others took malicious delight in his misfortune. His cousin and younger brother attended the same school. She never tires of reporting every little thing about him to me. In this lifetime, she remains as close to me as ever. Knowing I'd severed ties with my family, she supported me unconditionally nonetheless. Respect others' destinies, let go of the savior complex. Look at you, all disheveled. If we go out like this, people might mistake you for my mom. Instead of fussing over others, better spend that energy pampering yourself. Are all college students this precocious nowadays, full of sanctimonious lectures? My cousin matured early, but my younger brother remains hopelessly immature. I cut off his allowance, and our parents couldn't afford to keep funding him either. He immediately fell on hard times. My meal card balance hit zero when I couldn't afford to recharge it. He texted me on WeChat, "Why haven't you transferred my allowance this month? Even though you've cut ties with our parents, I'm still your brother. Where do you expect a student like me to get money?" I never respond to any of them. How can a student not make money? Wasn't I also a student when I was earning my living expenses? To protect his fragile ego, I gave him the best food, finest clothes, and top quality things. Always worried people might look down on him. This spoiled him into becoming all talk and no action. Washing dishes and plates, he refused to do it, thinking it was dirty and beneath him. Tutoring, he turned it down because the pay was too low and the commute too long, and walked away. Working the register at the coffee shop seems easy enough, but after standing all day, he's too exhausted to even straighten his back. Quit the job that very night. Broke as hell, but a man's gotta eat. Went back to work. Only dishwashing jobs were available. This guy who wouldn't lift a finger at home, who knew how to wash dishes anyway, ended up smashing half the stack of dishes that very day. Didn't earn a dime, just lost over $200. The reason this young master never tasted hardship is because I bore it all for him. Since high school, I'd been washing dishes during every break. Until I got into college, my life revolved around classes and juggling multiple part-time jobs, handing out flyers, tutoring, cashiering, waiting tables. No time for dating or making friends, always walking this road alone. My classmates all say I'm eccentric and arrogant. I don't bother explaining, just want to earn a bit more, then a bit more still, to ease the burden at home. Now, I've let go, the mud I once propped up against the wall, can it still stand on its own? Serafina already sees herself as the CEO's wife, that baby in her belly is practically born with a silver spoon, destined to inherit a fortune worth hundreds of millions. How could they ever face hardship? Only organic vegetables will do, the fish must be imported from overseas, the fruits are premium grade, costing hundreds per box, even the drinking water has to be from one specific brand. What could my parents possibly say? Truth be told, none of this was for her own consumption, get out, but for the precious grandson growing in her womb. That child in her belly was no mere embryo, it's a money-guzzling monster. In just a few months, her spending alone ate the family out of house and home, the promised repayments to relatives and friends. There's no way to pay it back now, as if things weren't bad enough. Serafina keeps flaunting on social media. Today I attended prenatal yoga class, and yesterday I had French black truffles again. The caption even featured an 82 Lafite, saying, drink in moderation, good for me, good for the baby. The family group chat started dripping with sarcasm. My aunt straight up dropped a Douyin video in the chat. Overdue payments show support, not pressing for repayment shows trust, paying promptly is how we honor that trust. Uncle was bluntly honest, saying right to my dad's face, now that my son's getting married and needs to buy a house, the money you've saved by having 2 fewer mouths to feed should be enough to repay what you owe us. 6. My father flushed crimson with shame. He kept chain-smoking gloomily after getting home. His crestfallen younger brother found out when returning home and unleashed all his pent-up rage on Serafina. This is all your fault. You kept saying I was CEO material. But now I can't even wash dishes properly. I'm such a worthless person, just like how my parents would constantly say, we're useless, pounding his own head, completely giving up on himself. It's all my fault, the child would only suffer with me, let's abort it. I'm no CEO, I can't support you both. Serafina panicked, she immediately clutched her younger brother. Honey, you're born to be a CEO. How could you stoop to washing dishes for others? Don't worry about the money, I'll figure something out. Serafina went back to her parents' home. She wanted to retrieve the 1 million she'd previously given her parents. They'd told her before that this money was being saved up for her, but the moment she mentioned it, her parents immediately said it was emergency funds, not to be touched unless absolutely necessary. Serafina watched her brother and sister-in-law exchanging knowing glances. I had a hunch about what happened. Turns out my brother and sister-in-law really took that 500,000. Mom, Dad, I'll make money someday. Can you give me the remaining 500,000 now? At first, Serafina tried reasoning with them gently, but her parents remained reluctant. They planned to use that money to buy themselves pension insurance, so they'd have security in their old age. That's my money, my husband's family's money. What right do you have to use it? Just wait till I make it big. You'll see if I ever give you a dime. She had a huge fight with them at home, nearly miscarried from the rage, and came back with 100,000 yuan. I work in finance, I've been supporting my family financially all along, barely had any savings to my name, now I've stopped sending money back home, plus the money I made from selling the demolition property. I invested all 3 million in stocks, thanks to memories from my past life. I bought in when the stocks hit rock bottom, sell everything when the price peaks, repeat this a few times. Turned 3 million into multiple times that, achieved financial freedom effortlessly. She was also dubbed the goddess of stocks for her beauty. When I became wealthy and famous, my colleagues no longer ignored me for being arrogant and aloof. They all extended olive branches to me. They always invite me to team dinners and bring me afternoon tea treats without fail. They even compliment my casual outfits. Coming to work feels joyful every day, counting money with pure joy, absolutely exhilarating. Serafina came to me with her swollen belly. Myra, you've been reborn too, haven't you? Otherwise you wouldn't treat my husband this way. I've heard the rumors. Landon couldn't take the professor's petty harassment anymore and finally snapped one day, storming onto the lectern and punched Professor Zhang right in both eyes. Poor Professor Zhang's glasses were smashed by the hammer. A shard of glass pierced his eye. He clutched his eye in agony, cursing through the pain. Professor Zhang lost sight in one eye and vowed not to settle, determined to see Landon rot in jail. Later, Serafina met with Professor Zhang privately on several occasions, spending entire hours in the divorced old man's office each time. Professor Zhang, now satisfied, relented and agreed to settle privately. but demanded a hefty compensation. Landon was subsequently expelled from the institution over the incident. 7. Smashing tables and chairs around the house every day. I know you looked down on me. In our past life, you disapproved of me being with Landon. This time you didn't stop us, but you deliberately cut us off financially. You want to watch us starve to death, don't you? Serafina's gaze at me was venomous. I dropped the pretense. Given a second chance at life, you'd better make it count since you're still breathing, but don't even think about getting a penny from me. I've already made my will. When I die, everything goes to the cats and dogs I've adopted to keep them fed and cared for the rest of their lives. Serafina lifted her chin with pride. Her eyes held the stubborn determination of a gambler. Landon has already started his own business. What's a diploma worth? He's going to make it big. Soon we'll be living in a mansion with live-in help and chauffeurs. I just need to tough it out for 3 more years. In this lifetime, she turned her back on family, abandoned her education, leaving herself no choice but to see this dark path through, stubbornly determined to prove their gamble paid off. My silly sister-in-law, a diploma itself means little, but the connections and opportunities it unlocks are priceless. Without these advantages, could he ever rise to prominence again? Though gifted and hardworking beyond measure, shackled by the heavy burdens of family obligations, how many years of toil would it take to match his past achievements? Whether my brother's startup succeeded or not, I really can't say. Right now I only focus on 2 things, making money and enjoying life. Life is vast. Spend your precious time on what truly matters. In the past, I'd pinch every penny I earned, because I need to provide for my parents and younger brother. Now during my time off, I take my cousin to Chengdu's tea houses for a leisurely ear cleaning session, or head to Qingdao's beaches to feel the ocean breeze while enjoying beer and clams. I visit Galangjiu Island in Xiamen, cycling along the island loop road to watch the evening sea. I also stayed in homestays in Dali and Lijiang, taking photos at all the Instagram-worthy spots. My colleagues all say I've become more radiant and beautiful than before. I only found out my parents were arrested for drug trafficking when I saw the news report. My brother and Serafina tracked me down. His face was weathered with stubble. Murmurs spread through the crowd, wearing a misshapen, stained tracksuit, bearing no resemblance to the clean-cut college student he once was. When I first bought him this outfit, the $1,000 suit accentuated his aristocratic demeanor. This was the very suit he wore when he first met Serafina, just a year apart, and he'd already fallen to such dire straits. How heartless can you be, not even checking on our parents when they're in trouble? I'm the heartless ingrate. Gotta maintain that reputation. They were desperate, plain and simple. If you'd given us the money, would they have resorted to that? Oh, dear brother, since you're here, let me ask you this. Our parents lived their whole lives as pushovers, only daring to yell at me while cowering before outsiders. How the hell did they end up in drug trafficking? Landon seemed blindsided by the question. Freezing momentarily, Serafina said guiltily, who could have known? My husband had to pay the school a fortune, and with the baby coming soon, we'll have more expenses. His parents just couldn't bear seeing him suffer. That's why they made that mistake. Don't worry, darling, after the baby's born, I'll take good care of them at home while you focus on your startup. Our little family will make it through this. She reached for Landon's arm, only for him to shake her off impatiently. Start a business the only fucking thing you know how to say? I don't even have a college degree. Where the hell am I supposed to start? Serafina collapsed onto the floor, wincing as she cradled her belly and glanced downward. Honey, I think my water just broke. Seeing the pool of fluid beneath her, Landon rushed to crouch at her side. I'm so sorry, Serafina. I shouldn't have lost my temper like that. Serafina cradled her belly. It's okay, darling. I don't blame you, our little one just couldn't wait to meet you. He wants to help his daddy through tough times. What kind of melodramatic show is this at a time like this? I kindly called 120 for them. That's the most charitable thing I could do for them. That night, my cousin gave me a call. She was absolutely beaming. Guess what? Serafina popped out. I teased. I'd pick my ears. Please don't tell me it's another Neza situation. Neza would have been fine. But she gave birth to a blue-eyed blonde foreigner. When the nurse brought the baby out, Landon was completely stunned. He stormed into the delivery room, dragged Serafina, who wasn't even wearing pants, into the hallway, and beat her black and blue. The whole hospital came to watch the spectacle, with half the crowd filming videos that went viral. Everyone's calling him the most pitiful expectant father. My cousin kept making astonished noises over the phone, though I wasn't the least bit surprised. After Serafina stormed out with her brother in that heated argument, I chased after them to the doorway. "Sis, please let me go. I won't marry some penniless loser and live in misery my whole life." She clutched her chest and retched dryly a few times. "Are you pregnant?" I reached out to steady her, but she quickly raised her hand to stop me. "My ex never liked using protection. Now I'm carrying his child. Even if he won't marry me, he'll pay hefty compensation." Landon's sweet and kind, but just too poor. "I've made my choice. Between love and financial security, I'll take the money." I let her go, but couldn't bring myself to tell my brother the truth. Later, Serafina died in a car accident. I figured the dead deserved their dignity. No point tarnishing her memory. Besides, it would be too cruel to let my younger brother discover how disgraceful his relationship was, so I never brought it up again. Little did I expect he'd blame everything on me this time around. I didn't remind my brother again. I chose to let him face the consequences of his own actions. As it turned out, he couldn't handle them. As public opinion grew, everyone came to know about my brother's situation. She had been reborn too, elite university graduate, unmarried cohabitation, assaulting a teacher, expulsion, failed startup, the unluckiest expectant father. 8. He's been labeled with too many stereotypes. Is blood relation really that important? You were his father throughout the entire pregnancy. How could you have no bond with this child? Serafina knelt before him, cradling the baby, begging him to take in her and her child. This became the final straw that broke her brother. He grabbed the household hammer and struck them mercilessly, again and again. One thud, two thuds, the world fell completely silent. Only the younger brother's desperate growl echoed between heaven and earth. Mom and Dad stayed tight-lipped during detention, but completely broke down when they heard about their son. They confessed everything. Turns out Serafina was behind it all. She told them it was just about running errands and delivering packages. $1,000 per trip, only getting this sweet deal because we know the owner. Both thought they'd hit the jackpot, arriving all giddy at the meetup spot, only to see those rowdy punks swaying by the bar's back door and realize this wasn't what they signed up for. But $1,000 was too tempting to resist. They kept taking chances, run after run, until they caught me. Serafina was the middleman. She knew too much. If she's not dead, she'll spend the rest of her life behind bars, just like my parents did. Year later, a prison guard contacted me, saying my brother was deeply depressed in jail, constantly muttering about rebirth and CEOs, as if he wasn't quite right in the head. They urged me to visit to help stabilize the inmate's mental state. Whether he remembered something or was reborn like me, it doesn't matter. In this life, I didn't interfere with his path. My conscience is clear. He's serving his time, paying for his sins. I'm living my life in the bright, bustling world outside. Neither of us disturbs the other, and that's just fine. Story 2. My little brother insisted on seeing the man-faced bear. I warned him those beasts are vicious. They can swallow a grown man whole. Mom called me a jinx and slapped me across the face, but after entering the park, I heard strange noises. More snacks are coming, but my little brother found the bare-faced creature adorable and insisted on taking photos with it. Suddenly, the beast opened its gaping maw, about to sink its teeth into my brother's arm. Mom shoved me violently forward. I stumbled before the monstrous bear, and in an instant, it severed my arm with one savage bite. My parents took my little brother and seized the chance to flee. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my brother begged to see the human-faced bear. Mom, let's go see the human-faced bear this year. The Cosmic Park just got a new one. It's really extraordinary. My little brother munched on potato chips while whining to Mom about seeing the human-faced bear. I glimpsed the flyer in his hand and saw the creature's grotesque features. That haunting gaze is forever burned into my memory. In my past life, that monstrosity severed my hand with a single bite. The ones who threw me to the wolves were none other than my own parents. After a dazed moment, my younger brother placed his hand on my shoulder. Wanna go, finish all my schoolwork for me, and I'll let you. My brother's words snapped me out of my trance. My hands still intact. That bare-faced monster didn't bite it off. At this moment, I realized with absolute clarity, I've truly been reborn. I replied, better not go. They say those face bears can swallow a grown man whole. Before I could finish, Mom yanked my ear. Must you always jinx things? Have you finished the laundry? Did you do the dishes? Mom's always been like this. I'm just the unpaid maid at home. while Emery is their golden child. My brother loves braised pork ribs, but I'm not allowed to take a single piece. Just forced to watch him eat. Mom sugarcoats it with, girls need to watch their figure, they shouldn't eat too much meat. By the time I came out of the kitchen, my parents had already decided to go see the Werbear. Mom beamed at me as I came out. Very, it's buy one get one free for the Werbear exhibit tickets. Consider this your lucky day. That smile of hers still gave me the creeps after freezing for a couple seconds. I snapped out of it and hurled the freshly filled water cup to the ground. Like hell, I'm going to see some freakish Werbears. No way. The glass shattered into pieces, and a flying shard sliced a long gash across my brother's leg. Blood gushed out instantly. Both parents rushed to shield the Shin family's only heir. Have you lost your mind? Very. He's the Shin family's son. Mother stormed over and slapped me across the face without hesitation. If you won't go, someone else will. Think you're special or something. Mom decided not to take this ungrateful brat to see the man-faced bear. I hid in my room, putting on fake sobs while secretly grinning inside. Anyone who wants to be that bear's snack is welcome to volunteer. Just don't come looking for me. In my past life, I was overjoyed when Mom said the tickets were buy one get one free. After entering the park, my little brother threw a tantrum demanding to take photos with the human-faced bear. The zookeeper said the human-faced bear couldn't take pictures with visitors, but Mom wouldn't listen. She threw a wad of cash right in the staff's face. Know your place. When I pay you, I'm your god. The principal stepped in to mediate. After a brief office chat with Dad, my little brother was finally allowed in for photos, but every move had to follow instructions. I trailed behind with a camera in hand, tasked with capturing my brother's best angles. Our parents coached him on posing for the shots. The audience grew restless and began scrolling through videos on their phones. Suddenly, the park's animatronic bear went berserk and started chasing our entire family. My little brother never exercises, just plays video games all day. He barely ran a few steps before collapsing from exhaustion as the bare-faced creature was about to sink its teeth into my brother's arm. I tripped over something and fell hard. Moments later, my brother safely tumbled into our mother's arms. Looking up, I saw the towering silhouette of the bare-faced monster. In that dazed moment, the bare-faced creature chomped off my right arm, blood instantly splattering across the ground. At this sudden horror, spectators fled the stands while even the regular zookeeper collapsed unconscious. My mother scrambled to the bleachers and uttered her last words. Don't be afraid, Very, we'll burn extra spirit money for you this Qingming. How ironic. The one time mother became extravagantly generous was at this very moment. In my past life, that's how I died. To contain the situation, the zoo had no choice but to call the police, and the human-faced bear was ultimately shot dead. The zoo compensated my parents with 10 million, and that settled the matter. My parents and younger brother bought a luxury villa and traveled abroad extensively. My brother transformed into a tall, rich, and handsome man, marrying his dream girl years later with a grand wedding ceremony. To save money, they didn't buy me a grave. Instead, they gathered my mangled remains and dumped them on a hillside near home. My spirit hovered above, watching their faces show no trace of grief as wild dogs devoured what was left of me. I never imagined they could be this heartless. No matter what I did, they never showed me an ounce of familial love. At this thought, my body shuddered again. A surge of intense hatred flooded my mind. In that case, there's no reason for me to die with you. The May Day holiday won't officially begin for a few more days. After a huge fight with my parents, they kept assigning me household chores, even making me wash my brother's underwear. This is what I get for disobeying them. They even abused me by starving me for 3 straight days, claiming it was to help me lose weight, but I weigh less than 40 kilograms. With the college entrance exams approaching, I've been pulling all-nighters to study, and my weight has dropped drastically. I can't get proper nutrition at home, and the school meals aren't any better. My brother gets freshly stir-fried dishes, while I can only afford a 1 yuan meal, eating it in the dorm with Lao Gan Ma chili sauce. Mom never gives me pocket money, but she's incredibly generous with my younger brother. He can casually ask her to reimburse hundreds for in-game skins, while I get nothing but eye rolls when requesting a 10 yuan study guide for my senior year. Mom always says, girls don't need much education, just marry into money someday. Realizing they'd be away for 5 days, I knew I had to secure living expenses for that period. On the afternoon of the 29th, I noticed my brother hanging around with some shady characters. They all Headed to the boys' restroom. Moments later, I heard someone begging for mercy coming from the restroom. A male student ran out covering his face, while my brother got praised by a taller boy. Good job, our crew needs guys like you. Bring us a photo with the Werbear. And you're in, too. So my brother was trying to join the school bullying gang. After everyone else left, I grabbed my brother's arm and demanded, "Give me my allowance." He snapped back, "Why should I? You nearly scarred my face." Forget about getting any money from me. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Fine then, I'll report this to the principal. Let's see how they handle your bullying. My brother just laughed. Go ahead and report me. I'm not even 14 yet. They can't touch me. With those words, my brother strode off without a backward glance. Watching his retreating figure, I smirked inwardly. You really think you'll make it back alive? Yet it was my actions that indirectly led to my dear sister's death. Mom, never one for subtlety, had already broadcasted our plans to see the Werbear in the family group chat. The family group chat instantly exploded with messages. Uncle's family was the first to chime in. I heard that human-faced bear cost a fortune to bring to Cosmic Park. Our daughter isn't that lucky, Mom replied. No worries, our very needs to study and won't be joining us. That actually works out perfectly. Just as Mom gave up my spot, Uncle sent a voice message. The voice belonged to Kea, my uncle's youngest daughter. She's just 2 months older than me. We grew up together and have always been close. Thanks, Auntie. I've wanted to see the bare-faced statues for ages, but our family, the call abruptly cut off. I knew Uncle had interrupted Kea. His family struggled financially. They didn't have a fraction of what we did during holidays. My family would always help them out with a generous red envelope. That's why Uncle holds our family in such high regard. However, Aunt divorced him long ago, simply because she thought he couldn't make enough money. A few days later, Kea went to Space Park with them in my place. Shortly after arriving, the family group chat was flooded with live photos from the scene. I saw Kea's recent photos. She looked pale and emaciated, clearly malnourished. Uncle replied in the group chat, "Have fun and enjoy yourself." Though it was just a simple text reply, I sensed something different in Uncle's tone. By around 4 p.m., the bear human hybrid attack was trending online. In the viral video, I saw Kea collapsed next to the bear human hybrid. Both her arms were torn off. The horrific sight of her death burned into my memory. That night, my uncle stormed into our house, grabbed my father by the collar and slapped him across the face. My father didn't fight back, knowing full well he deserved it. "Give me back my daughter. Give her back." My uncle screamed himself hoarse with grief. Uncle's wailing could be heard all the way down the hallway. Half an hour later, Dad drove Uncle away. I thought that was the end of it, but 2 days later, Uncle showed up at our doorstep lugging all sorts of packages. He stepped inside and immediately went to the room with Dad. I leaned against the doorway and overheard their conversation. "Big bro, you hit the jackpot. With Kea dead, Ria finally agreed to marry you. The dowry money's all set now. Damn that useless woman of mine for bearing me a worthless daughter, left me single all these years. Thank God you made me get that accident insurance, otherwise I'd never see this money." Just hearing those few sentences gave me full body chills. I was reborn, only to let my innocent sister Kea die, and my uncle turned out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. In your hearts, is a daughter's life truly so worthless? 3. My legs gave way and I nearly fell. As I steadied myself against the wall, I accidentally knocked over my brother's prized fish tank. My brother stormed out of his room, saw the shattered tank, and screamed at me, "Very, are you trying to die? How dare you touch my things?" The next second, he pulled out a photo with the Werbear and threatened, "Believe it or not, I'll have my big brother take care of you." He emphasized, "take care," with a deliberate pause, wearing a sinister grin. I understood the darker implication behind "take care." Never did I expect a 12-year-old could harbor such vile thoughts. News of the human-faced bears hunting death dominated trending searches for weeks. Prospective visitors rushed to refund tickets, causing massive losses for Cosmic Park. On-site guests even filed claims demanding compensation for emotional distress, but instead of paying, the park mysteriously made these claimants disappear. The park spent a fortune on PR, yet couldn't shake the viral scandal. Cosmic Park had become a deserted ruin, with no visitors for over half a year. Then during my first college semester, my roommate casually mentioned face bears again. A chill ran down my spine. My roommate Milo said, "Guess what? I'm going face bear hunting. Face bears. Weren't they all exterminated? I asked in confusion. He immediately posted the bounty notice from Cosmic Park, which offered a 200,000 reward for capturing the bare-faced humanoid. Milo discovered that the park had actually caught 2 bare-faced humanoids, and the one on display was the larger specimen. The other one was kept in the back area of the bear enclosure after the larger creature was shot. The keeper checked the back enclosure but found no trace of the smaller one. They say this little bear is incredibly smart. It can mimic human movements and even speak simple words. Really quite remarkable. I pretended to stay calm and retorted, doesn't that make it practically supernatural? After that, I stopped participating in discussions about the human-faced bear. 3. When I got home over the weekend, I immediately shared the news with my younger brother. Listen kid, those man-faced bears hold grudges like nobody's business. Watch your back. The younger brother trembled slightly before forcing out a reply. So what? It wasn't me who ordered the bear killed. Why would it come after me? Besides, I've got my big brother watching my back. By this point, Emery had been part of the bullying gang for years. The big brother he referred to was just some 2-bit neighborhood thug. Countless students fell victim to their harassment. These bullies never needed allowance from their parents. Their victims were basically human ATMs to them. All they had to do was corner a couple of timid students, throw some threats around, and the money would roll in. Around the same time, I noticed something odd about my brother. Their targets weren't the scrawny kids anymore. They were picking on big, muscular classmates. Once, I saw my brother forcing a classmate to growl like a bear. I happened to be passing by the school when they started beating the boy, even making him drink urine. In just a few years, my brother had become a ringleader of the bullying gang. I shouted at the kids, drawing a crowd of onlookers. That's when they finally stopped and ran away. To investigate this discrepancy, I asked my roommate to consult students from other departments. The classmates' response matched my expectations almost exactly. My younger brother developed PTSD. Subconsciously, he keeps reliving the fantasy of defeating that bear. I reckon mom and dad must be psychologically affected too. He witnessed the bare-faced creature's killing spree up close. The PTSD must be severe, yet mom never took him to see a doctor. When I got home, I suggested mom take my little brother to the doctor. Mom suddenly went berserk, choking my neck and snarling, "What illness? My son is perfect. How could anything be wrong?" Dad emerged from the room with a rope and began binding my limbs. They strapped me tightly to a chair until I couldn't move a muscle. Mom pressed a kitchen knife against my ear and whispered, I know everything. You've been reborn, so you're the one trying to kill us all. Well, you've already died once anyway. Don't worry, mommy's hands are quick. I don't know if mom was truly reborn. Then I caught the thick metallic scent of blood wafting from the kitchen. I remember the community would send social workers to monitor our family's mental state. I received the notification on my phone last week. Mom raised the knife high, aiming it straight at my neck. Bang, bang, bang. A knocking sound from the door interrupted mom's movement. She shot Dad a look to answer it. Dad was severely nearsighted. He peered through the peephole for quite a while but still couldn't make out the visitor's face. To make matters worse, the motion sensor light outside had long been broken. Dad just told Mom, "Seems like one person knocking, but I can't see their face clearly." Just to be safe, Dad moved me into the bedroom. As I passed by the kitchen, I caught a glimpse of a pair of high heels scattered on the floor. I know they killed someone. They won't let me live either. The bedroom door wasn't fully closed, and I could still hear faint knocking through the door crack. I saw my parents whispering to each other. Mom tiptoed to the door and peeked through the peephole. "They're gone," she sighed in relief. Dad chimed in, "Probably just a prank. Let's ignore it." Mom walked into the kitchen, gave a few hard kicks, and spat in disgust. "Pa, our family has perfect genes. How could we possibly have any mental illness? You're asking for death." Mom's gaze shifted toward the bedroom where I was hiding, for she began advancing step by step, ready to end my life. Before she could take more than a few steps, knocking sounded at the door again. Both parents shuddered violently, their eyes twitching slightly. Seconds later, Dad untied the ropes. Mom pressed a fruit knife against my waist. "Go check the door." Mom still had a habit of putting me in harm's way. The disappearance of the other bare-faced creature became everyone's crisis here. Mom, being the instigator, also feared retaliation from the bare-faced creature. I went to the door and peered through the peephole to see a person outside. To my surprise, It was my classmate Roman from the medical school. Rumor had it he lived nearby. Anyone home? The crisp Mandarin voice pierced through the security door, completely dispelling my parents' doubts. Mom peeled the tape off my mouth with her hands and told me to send him away. I'm home. What do you want? Roman's tone softened when he heard I was home. Glad you're safe. Rumor has it the faceless bear might be heading to your neighborhood. It's clever. Keeps dodging surveillance. He was about to continue speaking when I cut him off. You damn leech. Why do you show up wherever I go? Then I started banging on the security door frantically, telling Roman to get the hell out of the neighborhood, being a decent guy. He kept trying to reason with me while backing away when he saw how furious I was. If anything comes up, remember to call me. Peering through the peephole, I watched Roman leave and finally felt at ease. The last thing I wanted was to drag another innocent person into this. Mom led me back to the bedroom again and shut the door behind us. Meanwhile, Dad double-checked that the curtains were fully drawn. As he approached the window, a massive face suddenly appeared against the glass. It was a bear's face. Dad turned ashen the moment he saw the bear's face. His buried horror came rushing back. His sudden scream caught Mom's attention. Seizing the moment, I threw my weight sideways. The toppling chair tripped Mom. The fruit knife slipped from Mom's grasp and vanished under the bed. When Mom looked up, she saw the bare-faced creature crashing through the window. The beast's right paw seized Dad's leg, flipping him upside down and shaking him violently. Dad begged through chattering teeth, "Please, Great Bear, spare our lives." The monstrous bear kept shaking Dad's body until he vomited across the floor, filling the air with a putrid stench. Mom tried to reach under the bed for the knife, but the bare-faced creature spotted her. It swung its leg over and crushed 3 of her fingers under its foot. I heard the crunching sound of childhood instant noodles breaking. At the same time, Mom's piercing scream shattered the night's silence. Someone in the neighborhood noticed the bare-faced creature's broken window marks and immediately called the police. When the police arrived, they only found my parents' mutilated bodies. While I remained completely unharmed, I was rescued, but surprisingly, no one saw which direction the bare-faced creature fled. In my hazy memory, I only recall everything suddenly going black before losing consciousness. When I came to, I found myself lying on the floor with the rope severed. The person lying in the kitchen was taken away by an ambulance, their condition unknown. Later, when the police questioned me, that was all I could tell them. A few hours later, my uncle took us to his place to spare my brother and me from nightmares. These days my uncle lives in a suburban villa community, running his own small business as the boss. No, he made his fortune through his new wife. Uncle motioned for me to sit on the couch and comforted me. "Don't be too upset, you'll always have me to rely on." As he spoke, his eyes kept darting around involuntarily. Then he leaned closer and asked, "Very, what else did you see that day?" I repeated the same story I told at the police station, but it didn't seem to convince my uncle. There was something else in my uncle's eyes that I couldn't quite make out. The next day at school, Roman approached me again with some crucial information. His mom's colleague had been investigating my uncle. Roman's mother works in insurance, and the colleague was from the claims department. A while back, Roman heard from his mother that there was some shady dealing with Kaya's accident insurance claim, and it needed to be reinvestigated. He showed me a photo where the woman in it was wearing the exact same high heels. I called the police right away, but when they went to investigate my uncle, he wasn't at the villa. The villa owner said my uncle was just renting the place and wasn't the actual homeowner. Uncle had been gone for days without any word. On the 7th day memorial for our parents, I thought I caught a glimpse of Uncle. That day, my younger brother came with his gang of bullies to pay respects to our parents. My brother wept bitterly, and all the visitors praised him as the most filial son. "Emery is such a sensible child. Your parents' love for you wasn't wasted." Only when I lowered my head did I notice the sinister smile hidden beneath the mourning attire. A figure resembling my uncle trailed at the rear of my younger brother's gang of bullies, but that person kept their head bowed the entire time, never revealing even half their face. The next day, my younger brother stashed all the funeral money in the home safe to prevent me from stealing it. He even changed the passcode. In this lifetime, though they died at the hands of those bear-human hybrids, I still feel a pang of sorrow. I said to my brother, "Let's find our parents a burial plot with good feng shui." My brother suddenly slapped me across the face. "Why buy anything? Just burn it and dump it on the hillside." In my past life, I was also abandoned on that hillside, meeting a gruesome end. Never did I expect a teenager could harbor such malice in his heart. I froze for a second, my cheek burning with pain. After speaking, my brother's gaze swept over me with an eerie smile, then he said to me, "Very, it's time you got married. My boss isn't bad. I heard he's offering 500,000 in bride price." I knew exactly who he meant, the ringleader from our old bullying gang. As I turned to leave, a large hand suddenly grabbed me from behind. I turned around and was shocked to see my uncle standing there. With a meaningful glance from my younger brother, my uncle tied me up and forced me to drink some water. When I came to, I found myself in a derelict warehouse. I scanned my surroundings. Not a soul in sight. About half an hour later, I noticed a group of people emerging on the warehouse's second floor. I still remember their faces clearly. They were the same bullies who dragged my younger brother into tormenting the weak. The two floors were connected by a steel staircase. Its steps slightly rusted with age. Soon enough, the gang descended one by one from the upper floor, forming a tight circle around me. My brother referred to the short guy in the middle as Tobias. When Tobias saw me tied up, his eyes involuntarily roamed over my body. I hated that feeling and started screaming for help, but that only excited them more, as if I'd become a lamb led to slaughter. "Hand it over, the evidence you're holding." Moments later, Tobias revealed his true intentions. "What evidence?" "I have no idea." I played dumb. Though I knew exactly what they were after. For the past couple years, I've been systematically collecting proof of their bullying, building a solid chain of evidence. My law school classmates taught me all this. Many adults actually engage in less bullying behavior. Ironically, by age 14, most students are already well versed in juvenile protection laws. With today's digital saturation exposing them to complex influences, their mental maturity often develops remarkably early. Yet people still make excuses, claiming they're just kids. Seeing my resistance, the rest of the bullying crew closed in, trying to force my compliance, but before they could act, Tobias barked an order that stopped them cold. I thought Tobias only had intimidation up his sleeve, but their next command truly blew my mind. Tobias pulled a cigar from his breast pocket and began puffing away. Smoke rings drifted through the derelict factory as Uncle emerged from a shadowy corner. As Uncle drew closer, I could clearly see his glazed eyes. Like he'd taken something. My uncle's eyes lit up with a strange gleam when he saw me. He dropped to his knees and blurted out something disgusting. "Very, I've had feelings for you for so long. Be with me." My mind went completely blank with shock. My brother noticed my horrified expression, cleared his throat softly, then revealed a bombshell secret to me. "The truth is painfully cliché. I was a child my parents found and adopted. My brother even produced a report confirming I wasn't their biological child. Now you get it, don't you? That's why they never loved you. You were just a plaything they bought." Before this, I might have felt a shred of guilt over their deaths. At this moment, all I felt toward them was pure hatred. Tobias watched the unfolding drama with a smirk, while my uncle's hand crept up my calf. A wave of nausea hit me, and I kicked at my uncle with all my strength. The feeble kick only gave him the chance to grab my ankle. The bullies burst into uproarious laughter in an instant. They were accustomed to preying on the weak, and I became their defenseless target. The bullies encircled me as Uncle prepared to deliver his heartfelt confession at the center. "Very, take good care of these legs of yours. Don't let them get hurt. Very, whatever you do, don't run too much." Every word from Uncle betrayed his foot fetish. What a perverted obsession. He'd been suppressing it for ages with no outlet. Just as the bullies thought they had me cornered, violent banging erupted from outside the abandoned factory. Bang, 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 bang. The sheer force behind these sounds was tremendous. The noises came from all directions. My younger brother immediately screamed upon hearing them. "Oh no, it's coming, it's really coming." The man-faced bear is an extremely rare creature native to the uninhabited Ho-Zil region. The Cosmic Park went through great lengths to capture 2 specimens before claiming their prey. They have this peculiar habit of knocking politely like humans, using a courtesy before force approach. They first induce paralyzing terror in their victims, then the man-faced bears strike suddenly, tearing their prey apart before consuming the flesh. I once read in a book that man-faced bears believe this method makes the meat taste better. Hearing those sounds only made me laugh out loud. "Scared now, aren't you? I'm the only one who survived a bear attack. You'd better run." They'd attended the memorial, so of course they knew I was the sole survivor of the man-faced bear. As for how I survived, hell if I know. This air of mystery was terrifying enough for them, the empty factory compound amplified the slapping sounds into echoes, each one testing their nerves. My uncle and younger brother were particularly sensitive to the sounds, crouching with their heads in hands as if their skulls might split open. Others observed their reactions, having heard tales of the bare-faced creatures, not only vicious, but frighteningly intelligent. Last time, even with timely police backup, the bare-faced creature still managed to escape unscathed. The increasingly intense sounds contorted the uncle and younger brother's faces in agony. Bang! An iron door swung open, thick clouds of dust swirled up, obscuring the bully's line of sight. Light streamed through the doorway, revealing a silhouette. In my dazed state, I could just make out the person's features. He wore gold-rimmed glasses, stood at an unremarkable height, and always carried the sharp scent of antiseptic. It was Roman. Following close behind were my roommate and a crowd of unfamiliar faces. The bullies were quickly subdued. The officer who'd questioned me earlier led the rescue operation. In the end, both my brother's gang and my uncle got arrested. All my uncle's dirty deeds came to light. That year, my uncle had conspired with my parents to kill both me and Kea. My parents thought adopting me would bring them good fortune, but within a few years, their business started failing. My superstitious mother had my fortune told, only to discover I bore a cursed fate that needed immediate elimination. That's when they plotted to provoke the man-faced bear into mauling me to death. I was merely their first test subject. Had their plan succeeded with me, Kea's death could have been arranged the same way. In this life, Kea became the first test subject. During Uncle's interrogation, the officers made an exception to let me watch from the next room. He showed absolutely no remorse for his daughter's death. Kea died for a worthy cause, to give her father a better life. That's her glory. Do you even understand? Hearing those words, I nearly stormed in to beat the living daylights out of him. Little did he expect that someone would suspect foul play in the insurance claim. When the claims department lady came knocking, he pointed fingers at my parents. That's how the kitchen scene I witnessed came about. After my younger brother found out, he blackmailed our uncle over it, constantly demanding money from him. In the end, under the gang's influence, they took control of our uncle and force-fed him large quantities of illegal drugs. He became their lackey. Our uncle confessed to his crimes without reservation and was sentenced. After being caught, my brother acted outrageously arrogant, bragging that he wasn't even 14 yet and nobody could touch him. He flat out denied bullying classmates and extorting money at school. My brother kept yelling at the officers to let him go. The whole spectacle was just pathetic to watch. Then Roman handed me a Walkman containing the sounds of the bare-faced creature. I had the officer bring it into play for my brother. The moment he heard the first sound, his pupils dilated and he suddenly screamed, "Take it away! Take it away! I don't want to hear that sound." Though he wasn't attacked by the bare-faced creature, that experience left them both with severe psychological trauma. I'd done my homework on this. It was the same with both my parents and my younger brother. They just refused to admit they had a problem. The interrogating officer turned off his Walkman and said to my brother, "Just confess. We've got all the evidence right here." In the end, my brother and the rest of the bullying gang all pleaded guilty. They failed to obtain the victim's forgiveness and received severe sentences. When the dust settled, I walked down the street breathing in the unusually crisp air. Roman took me to the outskirts, stopping at the foot of a hillside. Beneath the slope stood a massive tree, behind which loomed a tall figure. As the figure turned around, I was stunned to see it was actually a man-faced bear. The bear's chest bore a wound, but it had been carefully treated. The injury had now completely healed. It spoke to me, saying, thank you all." This was my first time hearing a man-faced bear speak. Its enunciation was crystal clear, indistinguishable from human speech. We leaned against the big tree on the hillside, watching the distant sunset together. Roman dug out a box from under the tree, inside which lay an enormous sleeping robe. The robe matched the bare-faced creature's proportions perfectly. Seeing it, I finally understood how the creature had escaped that night. Roman exchanged a few words with the bare-faced creature before bidding it farewell. Its home should be in the uninhabited wilderness of Hozil, yet humans insisted on bringing it here, making it lose its family for no reason. I watched the man-faced bear walk toward the vehicle Roman had specially prepared for it at the mountain's base. The vehicle would take the bear back to its homeland, where it could live peacefully away from human interference. Only then did I realize Roman had been nearby that entire night. Later, He learned from the bear that its true enemies were actually my parents and younger brother. For their own gain, they resorted to exploiting innocent animals to carry out their sinister scheme. In the end, their wickedness only brought destruction upon themselves. Years later, I graduated from university. The timid Roman came to the square with flowers and proposed to me. I scolded him as usual, but he pulled me into a tight embrace and wouldn't let go. I finally claimed the life that's truly mine. Story 2. As the apocalypse approached, I didn't die from the cold or from starvation, but from my own naivety, killed by a neighbor I had once helped. In this life, I plan to enjoy hot pot and songs while watching the rest of you meet your ends. Please, let me die quickly, I begged. It's so cold, my body won't rot after I die. Suddenly, I sat up with a start, only to find myself frozen in confusion. There was no bone-chilling cold, no hunger, no human wickedness, no bloody hunting. I was in my own bed, wiping the cold sweat from my forehead. I grabbed my phone and saw that it was 3:30 a.m. on September 27th, my 25th day since being reborn. Only 5 days left until the deadly cold of the apocalypse arrives. Yes, I had died once before, a foolish death, caused by my own misguided compassion. In the summer of 2022, amid the scorching heat and power shortages, everyone sighed in relief when the cool weather finally arrived. But the temperature kept dropping, turning to endless, day and night snowfall. The world seemed to pause, power was cut, water was gone, and people were trapped in their homes without food or drink. As a homebound freelancer, I had stockpiled food and water at home. Seeing my neighbors suffering from cold and hunger, I foolishly opened my door, and then, my home was completely looted. After they had consumed everything edible, their hungry eyes turned towards me. Perhaps it was the intensity of my hatred before I died that convinced fate to give me another chance, sending me back 2 months earlier. Now, with only 1 month until the arrival of the cold, time was short. I harbored a deep resentment but showed nothing to my neighbors. Revenge was on my mind, but survival from the impending cold was my priority. I grew up with my grandfather after my parents passed away when I was very young. When he died 2 years ago, he left me some money, which I had invested in fixed deposits and financial products. I withdrew all these funds and approached an agent to help me rent a penthouse. My requirements were specific: large space, top floor, functional utilities, and uncompleted, as I preferred peace and quiet, making a less populated complex ideal. Coincidentally, the agent had just the place across from my current residence in a newly delivered building, a 30th floor duplex. The owner had bought it as an investment and had no plans to live there. Despite being uncompleted, the quality of the apartment was good, with smooth and even walls and floors. It was indeed spacious, with 4 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, a kitchen, 2 bathrooms on the lower floor, and 3 bedrooms, 1 living room, and 1 bathroom on the upper floor, plus an enormous private terrace accessible only to me. After a brief inspection, I paid 2 years' rent in one go. The rent was incredibly cheap for an uncompleted apartment. Once the contract was signed, I contacted a renovation company to make essential yet significant modifications. The first step was to replace all doors and windows. The terrace and main door were fitted with explosion-proof doors, which had excellent sealing and insulating properties, minimizing or even preventing air exchange between inside and outside, ensuring good thermal insulation and resistance to freezing deformation. Ordinary doors were sufficient for the rooms inside. Windows were upgraded to 4-pane glass. Then, I had all the walls insulated. The workers were curious about what I was up to. I lied, saying I was setting up for live streaming. I was worried about making noise that might disturb the neighbors. Fortunately, the materials used for soundproofing and insulation were similar, so the workers had no questions and even complimented me on my good taste. I also added a door at the base of the staircase leading upstairs to reduce airflow between the floors, which effectively helps in retaining heat. I kept the walls simple, just painted them white, and leveled the floor of the room I used as a bedroom with cement. Near the window, I installed a dual-purpose fireplace for cooking and heating. After applying waterproofing thoroughly 3 times in the kitchen and bathroom, I went ahead and installed appliances for both bathing and cooking. After all this, it was time to buy a large amount of firewood and supplies. Firewood was easy to acquire and inexpensive. However, considering the large quantity might raise questions I couldn't easily answer, I paid extra to have the workers cut it to specified lengths and deliver it in cardboard boxes labeled as renovation materials, firewood, charcoal, fire pits, gas cylinders, gas stoves, solid alcohol, solar-powered emergency lights, heavy blackout curtains, bottled water, rice, grains, spices, various household goods, a variety of instant foods, snacks, a bed, tables, chairs, all continuously delivered to the house since the building was newly handed over and not many residents were around. Most were there for renovations. The security guards at the entrance didn't bother much when they saw people moving items in. The building manager came by twice, noticed only minor renovations without structural changes, and then stopped visiting, so effortlessly. I filled up the space from top to bottom without anyone noticing. Food, drinks, utilities, entertainment, everything was there. Enough to last me 2 years sealed up in this house. I wasn't sure how long the cold spell would last, so I stocked up as much as possible. Anything unused could always be resold later. With all preparations complete, there was 1 week left before the cold arrived. I returned to my previous apartment and spent 2 days moving the more important items here. Looking at the plentiful supplies and the simple yet cozy bedroom I had arranged, I felt a deep sense of security. In this life, I was determined to survive well, too, but no matter how hard I tried not to think about it, the nightmares continued. People from my past life, cruel at heart, always burst forth when I was most vulnerable and unsuspecting, causing me to wake up screaming and drenched in sweat, thinking about my lovely neighbors who were as vicious and aggressive as wolves. I slowly clenched my fists. Only 5 days left. My dear neighbors, your good days are coming to an end. Rest assured, the pain you inflicted on me in the past life, I will return it 100-fold now. Dawn broke quickly. The cold was creeping in, and people had already started wearing sweaters and jackets. Many murmured about the sudden change in temperature. I picked up my phone to order some takeout and then lazily got out of bed to freshen up. I stayed here for a few more days to facilitate my plans for revenge. Soon, breakfast arrived, and after leisurely finishing my meal, I stepped out. I first knocked on the door opposite mine, home to a particularly despicable couple. Every time he saw me, he would stare at me with a lecherous gaze, scaring me so much that I would hurry inside and lock the door, but my timidity only led to his harassment. Shockingly, he even came knocking on my door, asking how much I charged for a night. Furious, I called the police, and notified both the property management and his wife. I had hoped his wife would stop him, but to my surprise, she verbally attacked me instead, accusing me of seducing her husband. However, the involvement of the police did restrain him somewhat. At most, he would just linger around my doorstep, but he no longer dared to engage in those disgusting acts. That was until the cold outbreak. I vividly remember that he was the first one to come at me with a knife that day. Fine then, I thought, I'll just give him a taste of his own medicine. When the door opened, it was an old lady, the man's mother. This old lady had only moved in recently, her greatest hobby being to take advantage of situations. She was the type who wouldn't go outside without picking something up, considering it a loss otherwise. She even stole the doormat from my doorstep. With a sly look in her eyes, the old lady grumpily asked, "What do you want?" With a smile, I said, "Auntie, there's a promotion at the supermarket across from our complex today. Everything's 20% off. It's been getting colder these days, and I reckon the prices are going to go up soon, so I thought I'd let you know." Really? Her spirits lifted immediately. I nodded. "You should hurry. Lots of people are grabbing things." I even cautioned her not to tell others, or else if too many people went, she might miss out on cheap eggs and such. In my past life, that supermarket was having a Members' Day anniversary sale with discounts, and not many people in the complex knew about it because it wasn't well advertised. I just happened to be there, so I bought a lot. I knew this old lady would definitely go. Sure enough, soon after, I watched as she pushed her shopping cart out the door. Go on, buy a lot. How else would there be enough for everyone in the building? After tricking her, I went downstairs, this time visiting a pair of girls home. Because of them, I finally understood what it means to encounter deceitful manipulators. Before the cold hit, because we were close in age, we used to chat quite enjoyably, and today, in my past life, they were the ones who invited me to go to the supermarket with them. Because of the discount, and because I have a habit of stockpiling, I bought a lot that day. A week after the blizzard, many families had run out of food, and it was these two who pointed out in the homeowners group that my house had a lot of supplies. They asked hypocritically if I could share with the neighbors. Back then, I was incredibly naive, completely failing to realize they were morally blackmailing me, nor did I understand how critical supplies were in such extreme weather. I happily agreed, after I opened my door and shared my reserves. They again innocently reminded everyone that I surely had more, spurring everyone to strip my house bare, and even directing their hungry gazes at me, all based on their suggestions. So this time, I won't let them off. Meroe, it's you. The door opened, and it was the deceitful Melissa. Meroe, what have you been up to these days? We haven't seen you. Megan pouted unhappily behind her. We were supposed to go for hot pot. It was Sunday, and they were both at home. I clenched my fingers tightly on my arm behind my back, barely restraining myself from attacking them. Suppressing my disgust, I squeezed out a smile. Sorry. Can't do hot pot for now. I'm out of money, but I've been busy with a project these days. Once I get paid next week, I'll treat you all to a seafood buffet. At first, the two of them looked disappointed, but when they heard about the seafood buffet, they immediately brightened up and smiled. Really, Humph, over the year I've known them, they've only treated me to a slice of watermelon and a milk tea. Every other time, I've been the one picking up the tab because I work on projects and have money, and they cling to me for support. And me, being too easygoing and not one to hold grudges, I just let them use me to pay without even realizing it, spoiling them rotten in the process. I told them to change clothes and accompany me to the supermarket. They were planning to go to the supermarket anyway, so they naturally agreed. At the supermarket, they picked up household items, while I loaded up on food and drinks. Actually, the supplies at my duplex were already enough. These purchases were just a trap I set for them. Timing our return, we first encountered a group of gossipy old ladies in the community, then saw the car-washing neighbor from the second floor. I made it a point to greet everyone, subtly making sure they noticed what we bought. Having gone through a similar experience before, I knew they would show up here. Once in the elevator, I suggested going to their place first to chat since I had bought so much food, perfect for snacking during our conversation. Seeing the opportunity to benefit, they readily agreed. As they opened their door, I enthusiastically handed a box of chocolates to the child of their neighbor across the hall. Yes, I knew this family usually left their door open for ventilation in the mornings, so it was intentional. The child's mother was naturally polite upon receiving the chocolates. Went shopping. Huh, you bought quite a lot. I smiled and gestured. This is all theirs. Earlier, I had deliberately helped them carry a very small bag. So Melissa and Megan thought I was referring to that small bag, but in that mother's eyes, she would think I meant everything. That was exactly the effect I wanted. Once inside, I generously shared the snacks I bought, and as lunchtime approached, I suddenly frowned and mentioned I needed to step out for a bit, saying I'd leave my things at their place and pick them up later. They wouldn't refuse, of course. This way, they could keep enjoying my food, and I never minded. Then, I made sure the neighbor saw me leave empty-handed. Afterward, I headed straight to a store selling fire safety and surveillance equipment, where I bought some easy-to-install HD surveillance cameras and solar batteries. I returned to the duplex first, installing the cameras at the entrance, in the hallway, and on the terrace. Our building faced the street, and the camera on the terrace could oversee the street and the entrance to the community. I really do love that terrace, at a height of 30 floors, surrounded by synthetic bamboo. I could move around without anyone seeing me. After it got dark, I went back to Melissa and Megan's, collected my things, and instead of taking the elevator, I climbed the stairs up to my floor. Just 3 flights of stairs, not too tiring. After storing my things, I quickly descended back down the stairs and returned via the elevator. This was just to ensure the elevator's surveillance captured me returning empty-handed. By then, it was past 9 in the evening. Every household had their doors closed, and apart from the elevator's surveillance, no one could see me. Upon returning home, I checked the stuff and sure enough, they had eaten quite a bit of it. Eat up, eat up. A last meal ought to be a good one. I had taken a nap in the duplex in the afternoon, so I wasn't sleepy at this hour. I turned on the TV, opened a box of chips, found a show to watch while eating, waiting for the time to pass midnight before I went out with the surveillance camera. I had already connected the camera to the solar panels, and I had picked out the perfect spots for them, one at my front door, one at the front door of the Green Tea and White Lotus house, and another one in the hallway on the 6th floor. I vividly remember how that man from the east side of the 6th floor had pinned me down on the ground, helping the creepy man across from my house to chop off my leg. These were all high-definition pinhole cameras, cleverly hidden, virtually undetectable unless you looked very closely. The power source wasn't just the solar panels. They were also connected to the hallway lights wiring. Plus, these solar panels could also be charged electrically, ensuring a backup power supply as long as there was electricity, which would be intermittent even after the low temperatures caused power cuts. After finishing all this, I went home to shower and sleep. When I woke up the next day, it was already past 2 in the afternoon. The weather had turned colder, and I checked my phone to see the temperature had dropped to 6 degrees. People were now wearing sweaters and padded jackets when they went outside. Instagram groups, friend circles, YouTube, everyone was complaining about the cold, wondering why this year's weather was so odd. Some joked, could it be the apocalypse? Others lamented, the Earth's environment is too deteriorated. Alas, humanity has gone too far. There were jokes and sighs, but no one realized that the disaster had already begun. I tossed my phone aside and got out of bed to freshen up, had no intention of warning anyone. Having seen the dark side of human nature, my heart had turned to iron. I had added many people from my building on Instagram, including almost everyone from my unit, and even joined the local moms group. Changing from my usual homebody lifestyle, I started going out to eat and shop with a few full-time mothers who didn't have jobs. I picked up the tab. My generosity and enthusiasm quickly earned me a great reputation in the neighborhood. By the 4th day, which was the start of the 7-day National Day holiday, many had planned to travel or visit their hometowns. However, a sudden outbreak of an epidemic in a certain area prompted the authorities to urge people to stay home, so everyone canceled their plans, as preventing the spread of the disease was paramount. Adults had to work, and children had to attend school. Going out and not being able to return would be a disaster. Thus, everyone stayed and played within the community, watching those carefree, innocent children made my hardened heart soften a bit. Despite myself, children are innocent after all. I subtly told these mothers that to prevent the spread of the disease, it might be wise to stock up on some food. Some listened, while others laughed it off, saying they had stocked up too much previously and ended up not needing it, wasting what they didn't consume. I just smiled and let them be. When night fell and no one was around, I moved the last of my belongings from this house to the duplex, including blankets, previously purchased food, and the last few books and items. The temperature had dropped below 0, and everyone was asleep. Even the security guards at the entrance of the residential complex were huddled inside and not coming out. Before leaving, I slipped another printed letter through the door of the young couple living upstairs, sternly warning them that this was no prank and I was certainly not exaggerating. I urged them to stock up on supplies tomorrow, keep their doors and windows tightly shut, avoid interacting with neighbors, definitely not go outside, and make sure no one knew they had food at home. They were the only ones who had never harmed me in my previous life. The wife even tried to plead for me, but her husband quickly pulled her back. I don't blame her husband, faced with a mob that had turned beastly. He just wanted to survive with his wife. Unfortunately, it seems they didn't believe me. I had slipped them a letter 3 days ago, but there was no response. Tomorrow would be their last chance. Tomorrow night, the temperature would suddenly drop to tens of degrees below 0. A blizzard would seal the doors overnight, making it difficult for people and vehicles to move. The catastrophe begins. Returning to my duplex, it was 2 in the morning. I took a warm bath and climbed into my cozy bed. The mattress, carefully chosen after much consideration, was extremely comfortable, and I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep, probably because everything had settled down. I don't know how long I slept when suddenly there was a loud knocking at the door. Startled, I jumped up and instinctively rushed out to open the door, but as soon as I left the warmth of my bed, the cold hit me, and I instantly woke up. No one knew I had moved here, and with the renovations completed, it wouldn't be the property management at the door. Who could it be? I tiptoed back to my room and checked the surveillance on my phone, and gasped. It was Melissa. I didn't go to open the door, quickly recalling whether I had ever slipped up in front of her, but the answer was no. This place was my sanctuary, and I had been extremely cautious from the start, whether facing the real estate agent or the renovation workers, always wearing a mask, even when moving supplies in and out. I was fully covered with a hat and mask. Since I hadn't slipped up, how did Melissa find me, then? I saw the answer on the monitor. A security guard came around a blind spot in the surveillance, telling her, "This house was just renovated a few days ago. It's definitely not ready. They didn't start work today. Come back in a couple of days." Melissa walked away, looking embarrassed. While I breathed a sigh of relief, I was still puzzled, but after a long thought, I decided to pretend I knew nothing. After today, she wouldn't be able to come even if she wanted to. The blizzard would seal everything overnight. She'd need wings to get here. With this thought, I felt at ease, watching her and the security guard walk away from the building towards the complex entrance from behind my window. Then I turned to wash up. After brushing my teeth and washing my face, I started cooking some wontons and finally had the chance to check my phone. It was almost 1 in the afternoon. Wow, I really slept a long time. While watching the stove, I browsed my phone, skipping over invitations from some moms to go out, and stopped at a group chat with Melissa and Megan, looking closely at their conversation. I finally understood why Melissa came. She wasn't here to see me. She was interested in buying a house and wanted to check out the layout. It must be said, playing the innocent also requires some capital. Like being attractive, Melissa's delicate and fair face makes her particularly endearing and lovable. Even I, as a woman, find her charming. Recently, she's met a wealthy man, and somehow she's managed to persuade him to buy her a house. Melissa is quite greedy, having managed to find an easy target. She naturally wants a big house. She thought that opting for a large villa might make her seem unseemly, so she cunningly suggested a duplex with a terrace, imagining summer evenings spent watching the stars with him there. The rich man was thrilled by the idea and agreed immediately. However, finding a duplex with a terrace wasn't easy. After looking around and not being satisfied, it just so happened that a duplex in my neighborhood was available, but the owner had gone out of town. The real estate agent thought it would be a good idea to show her my house first to give her an idea of the layout, especially since my place was also rented through their agency. Yesterday, the agent had already brought her over once, but I wasn't home, so today Melissa came by herself. I felt relieved about that. As the afternoon progressed, the temperature dropped, and I started doing laundry, knowing that the water and electricity would be cut off soon. I had only bought a very basic twin-tub washing machine for a few $100. Its drawback was that it required manual water filling, but its advantage was that it cleaned well and I could control the timing freely. I finished washing a few clothes quickly, and after spinning them dry, I hung them out on the terrace. Then, through the clump of faux bamboo, I saw the young couple upstairs leaving the neighborhood in a car. Were they going to buy supplies? I pondered for a moment and then sent a message to the wife. "May, I just saw you and Gong get into a car. Are you going out for fun?" Shortly after, May replied, "No, we're going to my mother's house." Has there been a change? In my previous life during these days, the two of them were always home. May was an excellent cook, and I could always smell the delicious aroma of her cooking, but I didn't pry further, only sending a message back. "Oh, then have a happy National Day, May." Unexpectedly, May replied, merrily, maybe you should stock up on some food." My heart skipped a beat, and I asked what was going on. After hesitating for a while, she finally told me that someone had warned her about an imminent severe drop in temperature that would make it inconvenient to go out, advising her to stock up on supplies. Thank goodness, she finally didn't take my warnings as a joke. So, were they stocking up? With the conversation at this point, it felt natural to ask if they had done so. She replied that they had already notified her parents to go to the largest warehouse supermarket in the city, and they were now going to meet with her parents before staying with them for a while. I reminded them to also buy charcoal and a charcoal brazier, as it was definitely too late to install a fireplace. May acknowledged and expressed her gratitude, mentioning that she had warned several people about the situation, but I was the only one who took it seriously. Well, I knew May, being the kind-hearted person she is, would definitely warn others. I cautioned her again, since many people were dismissive. Once the severe cold hit, many would be without food, and for the safety of her family, she should not be too altruistic. It was absolutely crucial not to let others know that her family had stocked up on a lot of supplies. After a pause, she replied, "You and that friend of yours gave the same advice. Gong has decided to avoid crowds as much as possible when coming back home after buying the supplies. I strongly approved of Gong's decision. After chatting with Mei, I put on some warmer clothes. I set out in my pickup truck and was immediately greeted by gloomy weather, as if a gray veil had been draped over the sky. The temperature had plummeted to several degrees below zero. First, I headed to the slaughterhouse to pick up the chicken and meat I had reserved earlier, filling up the entire truck. I told the owner that we ran a restaurant and needed the meat for pickling. Next, I stopped by the seafood store to collect the fish I had reserved, lively green fish that were still jumping around. I didn't let them kill the fish because I was worried they might give me dead ones. After all this running around, by the time I got home, it was already getting dark. I made several trips to carry all the chicken, fish, and meat up to the apartment. I didn't bother with the refrigerator. Instead, I took everything straight to the terrace. Although the terrace was large, it was cleverly situated mostly on top of other people's roofs. And the entrance to the upper level of my duplex had a roof over about 40 to 50 square meters, had set up racks there, all secured to the walls with expansion screws, so there was no worry about them collapsing under the weight of snow or in the wind. I arranged the chicken, fish, and meat neatly on the racks and then sealed them tightly with thick plastic film. Starting tonight, the temperature would stay well below freezing for an extended period, turning this space into a natural freezer. After all this work, it was completely dark outside. Standing on the terrace, I could see people on the streets bundled up tightly, hustling past with heads down and shoulders hunched. The complex was deserted except for the occasional security patrol. This complex was only handed over last month, and all the units were still unfinished or semi-finished, with nobody living in them. No renovations were allowed during the holidays, so there weren't even any construction workers around. Currently, aside from me, the only other soul here was the security guard. For me, this meant extra safety. Back inside, in the kitchen, the chicken soup that had been simmering in the electric stew pot smelled deliciously of fresh bamboo shoots and mushrooms, making my mouth water. After experiencing extreme hunger and fear, my obsession with food had reached insane levels. Since being reborn, I no longer took meals for granted like I did in my past life. Now, I made sure to eat well every time. I wasn't sure how long this cold spell would last, but I swore that in this life, I might freeze to death, but I would never starve. I opened the pot lid, poked the chicken with chopsticks to find it tender and falling apart. I scooped some soup into a small clay pot, added pre-soaked rice noodles, and continued to cook. The soup was already hot and soon began to boil. I tossed in a handful of fresh greens, stirred a couple of times with the chopsticks, and finally added a pinch of salt. A small pot of aromatic, steaming chicken noodle soup was ready. After a busy afternoon, I was finally ready to enjoy my meal. I took the chicken noodle soup to my bedroom, sat cross-legged on a chair, and began to eat while rewatching Nirvana in Fire on TV. The soup, made from an old hen, was deliciously rich. Just one sip had me sighing in comfort. I took a photo of the noodle soup with my phone and started to enjoy my meal. I had only had a few bites when my phone vibrated. It was Melissa. I paused the TV and picked up the call, only to hear Melissa's whiny voice asking if I was home. May had reminded her to stock up on supplies, and she wanted me to join her. Probably just another ploy to have me treat her to dinner. Whenever it's mealtime and we go out, she always expects me to pay for her meal. I told her I wasn't home. How about tomorrow? She didn't reply. I smirked and tossed my phone aside. She has always been such a rude person, only reaching out to me when she needs something. The moment she's dissatisfied, she disappears without even a goodbye. I slapped myself, cursing my past self for being too trusting and blind to have befriended such a person. Waking up late during the day means I'm not sleepy at night. After dinner and washing the dishes, I started to clear out the food in the freezer and fridge. Except for the items that needed to be refrigerated, I moved everything else to the shelves on the balcony. After finishing these tasks, I completed all the preparations necessary for the upcoming cold spell. At that moment, I felt a great sense of achievement. I chose to take refuge on a higher floor because the snow kept falling day and night. The lower floors would soon be buried, causing suffocation and death from lack of oxygen. Once the water and power are cut off, I can cook and heat with firewood. For lighting, I have candles and a solar-powered lamp, and the fireplace also provides some light. I've stockpiled enough drinking water to last 3 years, and for washing and flushing the toilet, I can use melted snow I'm the only one in the entire complex, so I don't have to worry about the sound of flushing exposing my presence. There's just one thing that bothers me a bit, disposing of household garbage, but then I thought, it's not really an unsolvable issue, since there's no one else around. I can just bag up the trash and throw it downstairs. The cold weather will prevent it from rotting and smelling. After the disaster passes, I'll pay for the cleanup. At that time, I'll face the consequences and pay for any damages. Checking the time, it was 10 o'clock. I washed my hair and took a shower, then threw today's clothes in the washing machine before returning to my bedroom to binge-watch shows and browse my phone. My phone was flooded with notifications. Instagram, YouTube. There was overwhelming discussion about the cold spell. Even in the depths of winter, it had never been this cold, and it's only October. I wanted to say something, but then felt it was pointless. In the end, I said nothing, opening the chat group with those so-called friends. I tagged Melissa. Melissa, did you manage to buy anything? How cold is it outside? It took a while, but Melissa lazily replied, didn't go, it's too cold, maybe tomorrow. Are you back yet? I replied with a smile, I'm on my way, almost there. Humph, you made me miss my trip to the supermarket today. You owe me a big meal tomorrow. Sure, I'll treat you tomorrow. I thought of the blizzard tonight and couldn't help but roll on the bed with laughter, thinking, you'd have to be alive to claim that meal. Seeing the mention of a big meal, Megan immediately jumped in. Wow, Meroe, did your project get funded? Yeah. After watching 3 more episodes of Nirvana in Fire, my alarm finally went off. I rushed to the balcony, only to see the fierce wind howling and fist-sized snowballs falling from the sky. The blizzard arrived as expected on the 3rd day of the National Day holiday. In the early hours, the severe cold disaster finally began. I went back inside and called the security guard at the entrance of the complex, notifying him to go home as the property manager. The reason given was that I had just received notice that the temperature would drop even further after the blizzard, and since the guard room had no air conditioning, for his safety, he no longer needed to be on duty. Just ensure the main gate was locked. There were 2 large iron gates that hadn't been removed in time, originally installed during the construction of the house to prevent theft of materials. The security guard, unable to tolerate the freezing cold any longer, was only too happy to hear that he could leave. He quickly locked the door and ran off. I watched him leave through the window, and only then did my heart finally settle. On one hand, I had saved his life. The snow would soon pile up deep, and he would not have survived more than a couple of days trapped in the security room without food, drink, or warmth. On the other hand, with the gate locked, I had an added layer of security. Many people noticed it was snowing. Looking utterly bewildered, in the residents' group chat, a mother tagged May, has your friend mentioned how severe this cold spell will be? Those who were still awake immediately perked up, some asking what was going on, others regretting not heeding May's advice to stock up on supplies because the snow meant that the prices of vegetables would definitely go up tomorrow. They optimistically assumed it was just a heavy snowfall and a slightly abnormal temperature change, whether it was the heat from the previous days or the current cold. Everyone was both surprised and accustomed to it, facing nature's repeated warnings. Everyone was both numb and blind. May didn't reply. I messaged May, urging her again not to show herself in the group chat, even though she and brother Gang had already gone to her parents' place. Then I muted my phone, turned off the lights, and went to sleep. When I woke up, it was just after 7 in the morning. I think it was because I was eagerly anticipating my good neighbors' reactions that I couldn't sleep out of excitement. But checking Instagram, there wasn't much discussion going on. Neither the pretentious nor the naive ones had shown up. I figured, right, it's an early morning during the holidays. Who would be awake at this hour? Lying in bed, I pulled back the curtains and wow, the snow was falling hard and fast, blanketing everything in white. There was no doubt that the streets were deserted. In my previous life, I was woken up by the cold in the afternoon, and when I picked up my phone to order takeout, I was bombarded with blizzard alerts. Ironically, I was excited at the time and called out to build a snowman with my friends, but when I reached the building entrance, the snow was piled so high that it was impossible to leave. Remembering my previous life made me feel heavy-hearted and resentful. Seeing the street's light poles shortened by the snow, I almost gleefully called Melissa, to not miss a call from a wealthy suitor. Never put her phone on silent. Hello, she answered sleepily. I pretended to panic. Melissa, get up, it's snowing, snowing, really, like in my previous life. Melissa instantly perked up. Ah, really, that's great. I cut off her excited shouting, reminding her, but, it's only October, don't you think this weather is abnormal? She shrugged it off. What's abnormal about it? People don't care about the environment. So it's normal for temperatures to be off. Wow, it's so cold. She must have gone to the window to look outside, and then her tone became a bit grave. Isn't this snow a bit too much? I exchanged a few words and hung up, then went back to sleep. When I woke up again, it was because I was hungry. I just went to wash my face and brush my teeth. The utilities were still running. The high-power air conditioning was humming non-stop because of the insulation layers I added. So the indoor temperature was quite bearable. After washing up, I headed to the kitchen to fry some shredded potatoes with dried chili peppers and reheated last night's leftover chicken soup, into which I tossed some fresh greens. After bringing the spicy potato shreds and chicken soup to my bedroom, I took photos of them before settling down to watch TV. Starting with the hot chicken soup, the soup revitalized me like water reviving wilted plants, bringing me back to life instantly. By then, the rice was ready, just enough for one serving. The rice was perfectly cooked, each grain was firm and chewy. I alternated bites of potato shreds, rice, and chicken soup, eating until I broke out in a sweat. Once I shoveled the last spoonful of rice into my mouth, I set down the bowl contentedly, leaned back in my chair, and let out a satisfied belch. The TV was still airing the same old reports about the snow disaster, which I grew impatient with. Switching to a comedy with the remote, I then went to wash the dishes. There's something incredibly satisfying about having days where you don't worry about food or work, just lying around doing nothing. After taking my time with everything, I finally checked my phone. Like in my past life, everywhere I looked, group chats, social media, YouTube, TikTok, everyone was only talking about the heavy snow. Some, like in my previous life, were joyfully taking a day off to play in the snow, while others had started realizing the crisis, running out of food and asking if anyone had some to spare. Among these people, some genuinely had nothing left to eat, while others, foreseeing a crisis, began to hoard supplies and stockpile food. With the experience from my past life, I wasn't surprised by these messages, so I lazily scrolled through my phone, just glancing over them. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was Megan, asking what I was doing at home and why I hadn't replied to her messages. I texted back, pulled an all-nighter for work, was sleeping, talk later. She asked if I had any food, but I didn't reply. Checking the surveillance camera at the front door, I noticed she and Melissa had already tried knocking on my door. I didn't think their concern was genuine. They were probably just looking for a handout. But then, I remembered something. In my past life, when we went to the supermarket together, they didn't skimp on their shopping, which means they weren't short on food when they told others I had supplies. They also knew I was generous with them and would share even if they ran out. So essentially, my food was also their food. In a survival crisis where food was life, they really had no reason to betray me. Even killing me for food would seem more rational than betraying me. But one of my qualities is not dwelling on things I can't understand. Having faced death before, these things no longer bothered me. For the following days, besides occasionally checking the surveillance to see if my enemies were up to anything, I just watched TV series, read novels, and played games. The cold was just beginning, and everyone was still optimistic about the disaster, hoping the snow would stop and that the government would come to the rescue. Indeed, the government was conducting rescues, but their current focus was on electricity, water, gas, and other essential utilities, especially electricity, are crucial. Once the power goes out, people can't use their air conditioners for heating, and there could be a large number of casualties. Every day, the two girls I call White Lotus and Green Tea Bitch come looking for me, but I ignore them. They've wrapped themselves in blankets and knocked on my door a few times, but naturally, no one answers. They got angry and asked me why I was ignoring them, wondering if I was afraid they'd ask me for food. I just replied that I felt awful and uncomfortable and that I was sleeping all the time. When they asked again, I didn't respond. I just left them hanging, but actually, I was quite pleased. Hey, it looks like their food supply is running low. After snowing heavily on and off for a week, it stopped briefly for 2 days, but before people could rejoice, the Temperature dropped by more than 10 degrees. Seeing the thermometer show below -50 degrees, I was astonished. Everyone knows it gets colder after snow, but this was extreme. On the third day's early hours, the heavy snow returned, continuing relentlessly for another 5 days. The snow had almost piled up as high as an 8-story building. If it kept up, the women living on the 9th floor, White Lotus and Green Tea Beach, would soon be buried. People in the chat group were clamoring to open the fire doors on the top floor because the air was getting thin in the buried floors, making it hard to breathe. However, opening the fire door would drop the temperature inside even further, especially for those living near the top, so they firmly disagreed. The people on the lower floors then proposed a compromise, asking those above to open their windows and doors to let air flow into their homes and then through the stairwell into other apartments. Naturally, this proposal was also rejected. Angered, some from the lower floors grabbed tools to break open the safety door on the top floor. The residents of the upper floors got angry too, standing in front of the safety door with kitchen knives and other items, ready to block anyone who tried to get through, as if saying they'd have to step over their bodies to open the door. So, I spoke up, telling them to stop arguing. The safety door opened outwards, and with so much snow on the balcony, even if the lock was smashed, the door couldn't be pushed open. Everyone saw that this was indeed the case. Those living on higher floors went back chuckling, and those from the lower floors returned sobbing. Seeing me emerge, Green Tea Bitch and White Lotus hurriedly sent me messages, but I glanced at them, ignored them, and went upstairs to bring in a pile of firewood, placing it in the fireplace before preparing solid alcohol and a lighter. I knew that tonight there would be a power outage in the area. This fireplace was dual purpose, suitable for both heating and cooking. In the electric stew pot, a hen was stewed to perfection, and I had braised 2 large fish, divided into 5 portions, and cooked a large pot of rice in the rice cooker. With the weather so cold, the food wouldn't spoil, so, after the power went out, I just needed to heat them on the fireplace and they'd be ready to eat. Then, I checked all the power banks and rechargeable lights, charging any that were low on power. After finishing these tasks, I took a shower, washed my hair, and did the laundry. Knowing that this power outage would last a week, I washed everything that needed washing. Before dawn, as the power went out, the cries of the other residents filled the air. It was indeed very cold. I layered my bed heavily, but even with my head exposed, it was still painfully cold. I grabbed my down jacket and wrapped up. Shivering, I made my way to the fireplace to light a fire. Only when the warm, dim flames began to flicker did I start feeling much more comfortable, huddled under the covers. Scrolling on my phone, I waited for the fire in the fireplace to strengthen and the room temperature to rise before getting out of bed to wash up and cook breakfast. Breakfast was simple. I just scooped some cooked rice into a soup pot, added water, and set it on the fireplace to cook into a rice soup. Then, with everything steaming hot, I began to eat with fish. While eating, I took a photo of the vigorous flames in the fireplace and found an old photo of chicken soup with rice noodles, which I posted on my social media with the caption, "In the snowy days, piping hot chicken soup with rice noodles goes perfectly with a fireplace fire." I made the post visible only to my neighbors in the complex. It had been snowing for half a month now, and everyone's food supplies were running low. The restlessness of the previous life began on the day the power went out. Just after sharing the photo, I received a call. I tossed my phone aside and focused on eating my fish. Fish has bones, and it wouldn't be pleasant to get one stuck. After finishing breakfast, while there was still running water, I used the hot water from the stove to wash the dishes, then went upstairs to fetch some firewood. As I was bending over to grab some wood upstairs, I heard a loud boom. It sounded like something heavy had landed on my balcony. Caught off guard by the sudden silence of the world, my heart skipped a beat, and I went numb with shock. But soon after, another boom came from not too far away. Louder and farther than the first, I rushed to the window to look out and saw that not far from the complex, on a plot of land slated for development, something had crashed. The snow was too deep, and the object was buried, with only thick smoke billowing from the snow pit. Thinking of the noise on the balcony earlier, I was both panicked and scared. I grabbed the snow shovel next to the door and peered out through the peephole. The snow was piled as high as mountains, and I couldn't make out anything clearly, but I couldn't rest easy not knowing what it was. After thinking it over, I grabbed the wood chopping axe and strapped it to my waist before opening the door. It was fortunate that I had been periodically clearing the snow these past few days. The snow on the balcony wasn't overwhelmingly deep. I shoveled with all my might, gasping for breath, and eventually uncovered a human head. On the balcony of a 30-story building, which was absolutely inaccessible, a person appeared. Out of nowhere, I almost screamed, nearly passing out. My first instinct was that this person could not stay. I poked at the head with the shovel, no response. Was he dead or just unconscious? But then I began to frantically dig out the body, dead or alive. Once I dragged it to the edge of the balcony and threw it down, I would be safe, but as I kept digging, why did it seem to get greener? It wasn't just green. There was a mix of earthy yellow and camouflage. Could this be a soldier? I threw down the shovel and started digging with my hands. The camouflage became more distinct, but nowadays many non-military people wear camouflage too, so I couldn't conclude anything just from the clothes, until I saw a badge on his chest that read, York. Knew then. It was a military name tag. People who casually wear camouflage typically don't have that. I turned his face around. His helmet was askew. His facial features sharp and clear, his eyes and brows distinct, and he was quite handsome. I checked his breathing. He was still alive. I've experienced death once before. My heart hardened like iron. Logic told me that throwing him off the balcony would guarantee my safety, but this man was a soldier. I had no idea how he ended up on my balcony, nor whether he posed a threat to me, but he was a soldier. I propped my chin on my hands and stared at his uniform for just a few seconds before I made up my mind. Damn it. For the sake of that uniform, I'd play the saint just one more time. If I was fooled again, so be it. I was prepared to face death together with him. I slipped my hands under his arms and began dragging him into the house. As I pulled him out of the snow, I saw the blood soaking the ground beneath him. Dragging, heaving, and carrying him, I finally managed to get him back into my room. I added a couple more logs to the fireplace, then began to ponder how to handle him. The whole house was filled with supplies and firewood. The only habitable space was my bedroom, which contained a bed that was about 1.5 meters wide, a small sofa, a fireplace, a table, and several cupboards stuffed with clothes and bedding. I had laid down thick layers of cardboard in front of the fireplace, topped with an old thick quilt for comfort while I warmed myself by the fire. There was no way I was letting him sleep in my bed, so the floor would have to do, to avoid getting the quilt dirty with the stains and blood from his body. I folded it up and removed his helmet, then dragged him onto the cardboard. Then I went to fetch a first aid kit and scissors. I stripped his wet, dirty clothes down to his underwear, and after checking him over, it seemed like his left leg was broken. As for internal injuries, who knows? Well, I'll treat him as best I can, but I can't be blamed if it doesn't work out. I warmed some water to clean his body first, then covered him with the quilt before starting to treat his wounds with medical alcohol. As soon as the alcohol touched his wounds, he groaned in his unconscious state, and his body convulsed violently. I quickly pressed down on him to prevent him from accidentally kicking over the fireplace. His face was deathly pale, his eyes slightly open. You, who are you? I slapped his uninjured leg. I'm like a curse sprung from your family's ancestral grave. Right now, I'm treating your wounds, and I'm warning you, if you dare kick over my fireplace, I'll throw you out to freeze to death. Perhaps intimidated by my words, he actually stayed still. Dressing wounds is actually something I'm experienced in. I began efficiently cleaning the wound with alcohol, followed by hydrogen peroxide, then iodine, and finally applying Yunnan Baiyao ointment and a sterile dressing. Next, I found 2 clean wooden planks left over from some repairs and used them to splint his injured leg. Man, this was exhausting. I cursed under my breath as I worked. Who could have imagined? At the end of the world, not knowing how many days we had left, I'd still be taking care of someone else, not to mention using up my medical supplies and later my food. Did he even pay me? When I finally turned around after finishing up, the guy had closed his eyes and was silent again. Well, I resigned myself to my fate. He didn't wake up until the afternoon. The moment he opened his eyes, he tried to jump up, but quickly realized the reality of his bound injured leg. The next second, he realized he had been stripped. He snatched the quilt back, his eyes flashing with anger, but his weak voice betrayed him. What happened? I was sitting nearby, reading a book, and pointed toward the pile of grimy clothes in the basin. The clothes were stained with blood and melted snow, Even my cleaning rag was cleaner than that. He stared at the basin of clothes for a long while before he seemed to realize what had happened. Did you save me? I waved my hand dismissively. Yes, but no need to thank me. Just cover the medical expenses when you can. He lay back down, a bit more relaxed, staring at the ceiling without speaking, his brow furrowed as if he was thinking about something. I muttered to myself that he might try to dodge the bill, and poured a glass of water. Get up and take your medicine. I had no idea how he got such a bad leg wound, bleeding so much. If he didn't take the anti-inflammatory medicine, he might develop a serious fever later. He tried to sit up, and halfway through, realized he was naked. He quickly covered himself back up with the blanket, a look of embarrassment on his face. His already dark complexion turned even darker. I sighed and handed him my coral fleece bathrobe to put on. He then got up, took the medicine, and quietly thanked me. Then he asked me where his walkie-talkie was. Walkie-talkie? What walkie-talkie? I rummaged through his pile of clothes and found a nondescript black object, tossing it to him. Is this it? He nodded, fiddled with the device for a bit, and after a series of static noises, a voice called out from it, 2581 York, 2581 York, please respond. I'm 2581 York, he replied weakly. There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by a cheer. 2581, you're alive. Where are you? Please report your location. I'm at. He looked up at me, obviously asking what this place was. I was all ears, about to answer, when suddenly there was a sharp static noise from the walkie-talkie, and then it went silent. Hey, Captain. York frantically tapped the walkie-talkie, but there was no response. In that moment, I quietly slid the axe I had hidden behind me under the bed and discreetly returned the sleeping pills and craft knife in my pocket back to the drawer. Looking at the situation, he really seemed to be a military man. Well, no need to worry then. Stop tapping it. I handed him my phone. Call them instead. Once the call connected, I finally understood that he was part of an Air Force rescue team. He had been piloting a helicopter back from a supply run when the cold weather caused a malfunction and the helicopter crashed. He managed to jump out of the cabin just before the crash, betting that the thick snow would prevent him from dying on impact. His gamble paid off. Not only did he survive the fall, but he was also rescued by someone. After his captain heard about his injuries and figured out he wasn't severely hurt, he asked to speak to me over the phone. Then he made quite a direct request. Considering his injuries were minor and they couldn't spare anyone to pick him up, they decided to leave him in my care to recuperate. They would send supplies and money to me. Well, that was certainly something. No beating around the bush there. I agreed without hesitation. I mean, why not? It's lonely being on my own, and having a soldier here to protect me sounded great. 12. With the filter of being a soldier, York's treatment took a significant turn for the better. When changing his bandages, I was as careful as an archaeologist restoring artifacts. When cooking, I generously used the spinach and greens I had blanched and frozen, ingredients I had hesitated to use myself, to make him chicken soup noodles, chicken soup rice, and chicken soup rice noodles. Everything else was easy to handle, except for sleeping at night, which gave me some troubles. Given the differences between men and women, one of us had to sleep on the floor. Since he was injured, I insisted he take the bed, which left me on the floor, and it was tough on my back. Then, waking up, I found myself back in the bed and he had moved to the floor. The next night, the same thing happened. I woke up in the bed, and he was on the floor. And the third night, once again, I woke to find myself in the bed and him on the floor. On the fourth night, I just went straight to the bed. He was startled. What's this? I glanced at his leg. Didn't want you to strain yourself moving me, so I came up myself. He then tried to move to the floor, but I stopped him, feigning severity. Please respect the hard work I've put into caring for you. I arranged two thinner blankets side by side into makeshift beds, then spread a thicker blanket over them, slapped his pillow, and commanded fiercely, sleep. He lay down stiffly. I lay down, thoroughly pleased. The cool, handsome pilot, thinking back to the glimpse of his abs when I had helped change his shirt. Tears of excitement momentarily streamed down from the corner of my mouth, but as nice as it was to have a handsome guy beside, it had its inconveniences, like not being able to torment my lovely neighbors as freely as before. Over the last 2 days, the drama seekers and green tea gossips had been frantically looking for me. even starting to kick my door, but since I was busy taking care of York, I hadn't managed to deal with them. On the fourth day, the electricity came back on. I tossed York's rag-like clothes into the washing machine, and as it whirred, I turned on the surveillance footage of the neighborhood across the way. The snow had been erratic these past few days, finally reaching above the 10th floor. Those living on the lower floors were getting anxious. They decided to smash the windows in the high-rise fire escapes to increase the oxygen inside the building, but the residents on the higher floors wouldn't have it. I remembered from my previous life, on this day, the neighbors had their first big fight, and the lower floor residents won. Back then, I thought they were foolish. It was so cold. Everyone was staying indoors. Why not quietly go up and break the windows without causing a fuss? Why make a big scene and then fight about it? Later, I realized they wanted more than just to break the glass. It was also a way to vent their inner fear and despair. The rare, relentless snow showed no sign of stopping. The weather was getting colder, food was scarce, and government help was nowhere in sight. Anyone would break under that strain. 13. In the surveillance footage, just like in my previous life, after a fierce dispute, the glass in the fire escapes above the 15th floor was completely smashed. The lower floor residents won, but this victory turned the high floor and low floor residents into two opposing factions. In the homeowners group chat, they began attacking and cursing each other, even arranging to fight. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Can you stop? Only people who are full have the energy to fight. Are all of you full?" Everyone fell silent. The blizzard had been raging for 20 days, and many people's food supplies were reaching their limits. I knew they were about to start fighting over resources. 2 days later in my previous life, I naively opened my door. 10 days later, they had cast their hungry eyes on me. I especially wanted to know, in this life, who would take my place as the sacrificial lamb under their knives. Since the electricity was back, York took a shower, his wet hair sticking to his forehead, making his usually stern features appear somewhat softer. He was wiping his hair with a towel and asked me what I was laughing at. I abruptly stopped laughing and just told him it was a silly internet joke. After wringing out the clothes, I hung them up in the room. Considering the difficulty in drying clothes in snowy weather, I had strategically placed a rod directly in front of the air conditioner. Since we had electricity, I decided not to light the fireplace. Today's meal was a bit more lavish, featuring braised fish, stir-fried green peppers with edamame, tomato, and egg soup, and a side of cold-dressed dried lettuce stems. I must admit, the effort I put into stockpiling food due to the pandemic was not in vain. The tomatoes, green peppers, edamame, and rice were all preserved in the freezer, while the dried lettuce stems were rehydrated, blanched, and seasoned with salt, soy sauce, vinegar, and a drizzle of sesame oil. A truly delicious mix. I handed York a big bowl of rice and couldn't help asking, "Didn't your captain say he was sending supplies?" York's face turned red. Caught between eating and not eating, I quickly waved it off. "No worries, it's fine if the supplies aren't coming yet, just don't back out later." He stared at the heaping bowl of rice for a moment before saying, "Don't worry, I won't back out," while photographing the 3 dishes and soup. I nodded, "Yeah, I believe you." After dinner and washing up, York picked a book from my shelf to read, and I brewed some 8 Treasures tea and lay down on the sofa with my headphones on. Opening my phone, the atmosphere in the apartment complex across was intensifying, with a palpable standoff between residents of different floors. In my past life, I naively thought this was just an unusual natural disaster, oblivious to the outside world as I stayed home daily, engrossed in novels and TV shows, unaware of how serious the situation outside had become. Now, watching the surveillance footage, I realized that people were already attempting to loot supplies. White Lotus and Green Tea Bitch were being watched. Occasionally, someone from the surveillance would linger and peek, someone I recognized as the man from the 6th floor. White Lotus and Green Tea Bitch seemed to have noticed too. Every time the man left, they would peek out their door, visibly anxious and tense, reflecting on the past. I was puzzled. Back then, in the group chats, Green Tea Bitch and White Lotus had excessively flattered this man, and together they had morally coerced me into sharing my food. This time around, things seemed a bit different, however. Soon enough, Green Tea Bitch and White Lotus started messaging and calling me. I didn't answer the calls, but texted back that I was sick with a cold, my throat sore, unable to speak, and asked what they wanted. I thought they were reaching out to me because they were scared of the man on the 6th floor, but unexpectedly, they didn't mention him at all. Instead, they were asking for food and why I had repeatedly turned them away. I sent a few question marks and stopped replying, just as I was about to drop the matter and find a show to watch. The chat group suddenly erupted, bombarding me with mentions. I checked and saw that it was Green Tea Bitch and White Lotus, telling others in the group that I had food. Watching their deceit unfold, I let out a long sigh of exasperation. Then, I scoffed at my own naivety. After being reborn, I had often thought, in this life, they haven't harmed me yet, maybe this time they won't. I didn't bother to differentiate right from wrong and just ended things with them. Was that wrong? Struggling and wavering. I finally decided to calm down first and see if they would change in this lifetime. Unfortunately, it was all just a wishful thinking. I sent a very surprised emoji to the group chat, followed by a string of question marks. Melissa saw my message and got very excited. "Meroe, you're finally here. Hurry, everyone is waiting for your help." Her words were identical to what she said in my past life, where I, like a big fool, laughed and agreed enthusiastically before opening the door. Thinking of my past life pained my heart, and I sent out 2 more question marks. In the next moment, Megan chimed in, "Meroe, I know you have food at home. Please help everyone and don't be selfish by keeping it all to yourself." I stared silently at the phrase, "keeping it all to yourself," for a few seconds, then coldly typed, "Indeed, I do have a lot of food at home. Not only that, but also wood and a fireplace. I'm more than happy to help everyone." After that, I shared pictures of the fireplace and the food I had taken over the past few days. The group instantly became jubilant, showering me with praise and eagerly asking me to share the supplies. Proud of their influence, Melissa and Megan boasted to the neighbors that it was thanks to their relationship with me that I was so generous. The neighbors thanked them profusely, but then, I slowly typed, "Unfortunately, while I'm willing to help, I don't live there anymore." The group fell silent. Melissa asked me what I meant. I replied with a smile, "I've moved. I'm living somewhere else now." "Oh, didn't I tell you?" Melissa and Megan immediately called me, but I declined the call. They finally dropped their pretense and started cursing me in the group chat. "You liar, you never mentioned moving, you just don't want to share the supplies. Meroe, you're so selfish. Yes, you just want to keep everything to yourself. Meroe, I can't believe how shameless you are, right? Everyone is starving. How can you hoard the supplies all to yourself? How can you even eat?" Under their lead, everyone became angry and started hurling accusations and insults at me, as passionately as they were friendly before. I sent a sad emoji and said, "Well, my door has an electronic lock. I can remotely unlock it for you to see." Someone immediately responded, wanting to check if I was lying. Despite knowing their true colors, facing their shamelessness still made me shake with anger. I bit my tongue to calm myself down. I opened the surveillance app, watched them gather at the door, and remotely unlocked it. They rushed in like a swarm, only to find the house completely empty, not even food, nor a single piece of warm clothing. Disappointed, they left. Melissa and Megan asked me when I moved and where I was now. I questioned them. When did I move? Where am I now? Why should I tell you everything? Who are you to me? Then I added, wait, you two are asking me to share supplies. But why aren't you bringing out your own stash of food? The chat group exploded again. This time, the focus shifted to Megan and Melissa. What? You guys have food at home? They panicked immediately. Meroe, what are you talking about? We don't have any food. How can you not have any food? I expressed my surprise. I just went shopping with you a few days ago. Then, I tagged the car wash owner who lives on the 2nd floor and the mother living across from Melissa and Megan, and I posted several photos from the day we went shopping for supplies. The mother immediately spoke up. Yes, I saw it. They bought a lot and even gave my child some chocolate. Soon after, the 2nd floor owner also testified. Following that, relatives of the ladies in the chat group spoke out. Yes, my grandmother saw it. The 3 girls carried a lot of stuff. I threw their own words of moral coercion back at them. Everyone is counting on you two to help. How can you two be so selfish? You have food yet you ask me for it. People are starving, and you two are eating alone. How can you be so heartless? Melissa and Megan tried to defend themselves, claiming that most of the supplies were mine, and they only had a few personal items. However, the mother across the street countered, saying she saw with her own eyes that all the goods went into Melissa and Megan's home, and I left empty-handed. They then claimed I had come to collect them at night, so I directly tagged the owner who lives on the first floor. His wife is the building manager and has access to the elevator surveillance from her computer, something I had heard about. Incidentally, she was very efficient, checked the time, and pulled up the evening's elevator footage. In it, I was seen leaving Melissa's floor with a small backpack and a white bag faintly marked with the logo of a popular duck neck snack, and later returning empty-handed, still just carrying my backpack. I told everyone with a sense of injustice how I had bought them duck neck snacks that night, genuinely caring for them, yet they made me take the blame. Those who I had previously stood up for were outraged and jumped to defend me, condemning the two for their shamelessness. The desperation for food and the anger at being deceived intensified everyone's animosity towards Melissa and Megan. Watching Melissa and Megan repeatedly defend themselves, I decided to delete a message I had typed, suggesting others search their home. Realizing I couldn't become as monstrous as them, I wanted revenge. But I couldn't be utterly ruthless. What happens next would depend on their luck. I then pretended to lament casually that not everyone went shopping on the day of a supermarket discount, unlike the family across from me, who bought a lot of stuff, a lot of food. This immediately grabbed everyone's attention. That family also had a lot of food. In the surveillance footage, an owner from the 6th floor stepped out, approached Melissa and Megan's door, and started banging, while a crowd began to gather at my neighbor's door. I don't know what will happen next, but for now, I'm quite satisfied. Exiting the surveillance, turning off Instagram, I looked up to see York watching me intently, his gaze sharp and penetrating as if he could see right through me. I felt a tightness in my chest. What's up? I asked. Is something the matter? He inquired. I shook my head. No, nothing. He looked at me deeply once more before returning to his book. I breathed a sigh of relief and chided myself silently. What was there to feel guilty about? What could he possibly know? In a good mood, I decided to make sauerkraut fish hot pot for dinner. I cut the thick parts from the thawed fish, chopped the head and bones into pieces, heated oil in a wok, and stir-fried slices of ginger, garlic, and scallions until fragrant. I then added a bag of soaked sauerkraut, squeezed dry, and stir-fried it before adding boiling water along with the fish head and bones. I also tossed in some sliced radishes and, after bringing it to a boil, let it simmer on low heat. Next, I removed the bones from the fish meat, sliced it thinly with a sharp ceramic knife, and marinated it with chicken bouillon, soy sauce, pepper, a pinch of salt, vinegar, oyster sauce, and cornstarch. Glass noodles, kelp, and mushrooms were soaked in hot water, and I chopped some fresh cabbage as vegetables were scarce. Soon, the aroma from the sauerkraut pot filled the air. I moved the pot to the fireplace, brought over the assorted vegetables, and then cracked open a can of Coke to start eating. York sniffed the air and gave me a deep look. You're quite the cook, of course, I replied, proudly sipping my Coke. Seeing him glance my way, I quickly covered the can and said sternly, you can't have any, your wound hasn't healed yet. For his sake, and because he loves spicy food, I hadn't added any chili to the hot pot. It's always the strong ones who have all the luck. His leg had such a serious wound, yet it was healing nicely with just the anti-inflammatory medicines and the Yunnan Baiyao ointment I'd applied. Yesterday, when I changed his bandages, the swelling had gone down. He withdrew his gaze somewhat dejectedly and started to swish fish slices in the hot pot. They cooked quickly, needing just a moment in the boiling broth. I mostly picked out radishes to eat. The tender radishes had softened beautifully, absorbing the essence of the broth and becoming deliciously aromatic. They were so tasty I could almost swallow my tongue with them. I took out my phone and snapped a few photos, posting them on social media with the caption, on snowy days, hot pot is a must. As usual, visible only to that one neighbor. After posting, I tossed my phone aside and started competing with York for the meat. Eating with others always makes the meal more enjoyable. Soon, we had polished off the entire pot of sauerkraut fish, even using the broth to soak our rice. After dinner, with full bellies, York supported me as we walked around the house to aid digestion. Outside on the balcony, the heavy snow continued to fall, covering unknown lives beneath its white blanket. He stared out the window, his expression somber. I asked him, are you worried about your comrades? In this bitterly cold weather, the government and military, along with the power and other departments, are all doing their utmost to combat the snow disaster. He shook his head. Not just them, I'm more worried about. He didn't finish his sentence, but I knew what he meant. His concern was not only for his comrades but also for the disaster-stricken populace. I closed my eyes, suppressing the sourness at the back of my eyes. But have you ever thought that some people might not deserve you risking your lives to save them, like my so-called good neighbors? He turned to look at me, his gaze unwavering. Rescuing citizens is the duty of a soldier. So, you're going to save everyone, regardless of whether they're good or bad. I suddenly became agitated, pointing towards the residential area across from us. Have you ever thought about how many shameless thieves are stealing others' food right now? How many utterly heartless people are killing for a bit of food, even resorting to cannibalism? Have you ever considered that those who can still hold on until you rescue them are surviving on others' flesh and blood, turning into beasts? The weak who should be saved are dead, the good are killed and eaten, yet the wicked are rescued. Is there any justice left in this world, if good and evil don't receive their due retribution? Is that fair? I was shouting and roaring. York initially looked at me in shock, then pulled me tightly into his arms, wiping the tears that had unknowingly started streaming down my face, while gently patting my back. Don't be afraid, I'm here, I'm here. I leaned into his embrace, crying for who knows how long, until my emotions finally calmed down, and I pushed him away to go back inside, washing my face, brushing my teeth, and going to bed. Before sleeping, I checked my phone. The post on my social circle had greatly agitated everyone in that building. Nearly everyone had commented or mentioned me, some envying, others accusing me of being cruel for posting such photos during these times, and the green tea bitch and the white lotus were cursing me, wishing me dead. I snorted coldly. I just provoked you. What can you do about it? I sent a message to the white lotus and green tea bitch. Let's see who dies first. Then I threw away my phone and closed my eyes to sleep. That night, I had another nightmare. In the dream, it was still those demons in the building, snatching my supplies, frantically cutting my flesh. I cried, I pleaded, over and over, Dad, Dad, save me. In a daze, a pair of arms pulled me out of that bloody siege, and I immediately fell into a very warm and secure embrace, someone gently patting my back. Don't be afraid, I'm here, I've come. I clung desperately to this warm and safe place, repeatedly shouting, don't let them eat me, please. No one will, I'm here, no one dares hurt you. The latter part of the night was probably the most peaceful sleep I've had since my rebirth. If it wasn't for waking up to see a chin pressed against my forehead and my sore eyes, I would think this was an absolutely wonderful breakfast. I stared blankly at the stubbly chin on my forehead, belatedly realizing I was clinging to York like an octopus, with my legs over his. Our bed was against the wall, and I had pushed him so hard against it, and his arm was draped over my waist. Oh my God, I jumped up with a shout, but then felt a tightness around my waist and was pulled back, and then I heard a deep, dark voice from above my head. You awake? Isn't this a scene straight out of a domineering CEO romance novel? I didn't know whether to be angry or shy at the moment. I could only push his hand away. Sorry, I don't know how I ended up sleeping like that. He tried to suppress a laugh. It's okay. After a moment, he asked again, are you all right? I looked at him, puzzled. I'm fine. Why? He looked at me intently and then smiled. As long as you're okay. Still embarrassed from the earlier situation, I didn't bother to argue with him and hurried to get up and wash. When I looked in the bathroom mirror, I noticed my eyes were red and swollen. I realized then that he must have thought I hadn't slept well. Breakfast was a hearty meal of pumpkin millet porridge, a few boiled eggs, some scallion pancakes, shredded potatoes, and pickles drizzled with sesame oil. As usual, I took a photo and posted it on my social media. After breakfast, while I was washing dishes, York did some push-ups, earning himself a scolding from me. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he sat down reluctantly and let me change his bandage. The snow started falling heavily outside the window again, but I was too lazy to look. After changing the bandage, I picked a drama series to watch. My phone was still bombarded with messages. I checked the texts from Melissa and Megan, both accusing me of being selfish. I thought about it and replied, how is eating my own food selfish? Why should I share my supplies with you just because you're shameless? I was so good to you before, and you just lead others to covet my stuff. Do you really think you're entitled to everything? After venting all my frustrations and anger, I blocked them. Then, I responded to the more friendly messages with regret that I had moved. Otherwise, I would have definitely helped everyone. They asked where I had moved to. I sighed. There's no point in telling you, you can't come here anyway. People were sympathetic. Days passed neither too fast nor too slow. York's leg was gradually improving, and he could walk a few steps without my support. However, he didn't seem happy, looking at the snow outside. His brow never relaxed. I knew he was worried about his comrades and the affected people, so I tried to console him to make the best of the situation, but he shook his head, worried about something else, pointing outside, his brow furrowed. Once all this snow melts, it will be another disaster. I was startled at first, then jumped up. You mean, a flood? He nodded. All this snow, if it melts, will drown many people. But he immediately reassured me, don't worry, you live high up. I had rented the top floor of a high-rise initially for fear of being buried by snow, which ironically turned out to be a good decision, but as worrying as it was. In the face of nature, human power is indeed very small, so I pulled him back to watch the drama with me. Today, we watched a series about characters who reincarnated as prosecutors, instructors, and students. York usually dismissed such melodramatic series, but this time he seriously watched it with me. Then he asked me, does reincarnation really exist in this world? I tensed up a bit inside, and after thinking it over, I nodded and said, maybe there is. He replied after a moment of silence, if fate gives someone a chance to live again, one shouldn't dwell or sink into the hatred of their past life. Instead, one should look forward. His words struck me like a thorn, piercing deep into my heart. I asked him, so what you mean is, a person who has been wronged and reborn should just overlook their enemy standing right in front of them, as if the harm never happened? That would be foolish. He shook his head. Let the law punish them instead. I didn't respond to his comment and couldn't help but snort coldly. I had him figured out completely. He was a soldier, dedicated to protecting the nation and its people, a staunch defender of the law. He believed that all grievances should be judged and punished by the law. He simply couldn't accept my approach of an eye for an eye, a life for a life. We simply didn't see eye to eye. Through surveillance and messages in the group chat, I learned that Melissa and Megan's apartment doors had been kicked in, and the supplies in the apartment across mine were not spared either. Only a few packs of instant noodles remained in Melissa and Megan's place, now swept clean. When Melissa and Megan tried to intervene, the man from the 6th floor brutally smacked them down to the floor. Compared to Melissa and Megan, the family across my door was clearly more vicious. That man hacked 3 people with a kitchen knife, but this also fueled the inherent aggression in the crowd, culminating in him being struck in the head with an iron rod and killed instantly. I never expected that in this life he would die first, yet compared to my previous life's tragic end, his death was all too easy, too cheap. This looting marked the beginning of a bloodthirsty robbery, where strong men first robbed the weak of their food, and once the weak were robbed, they turned on each other in a murderous frenzy. The scene was bloody and brutal, making me feel nauseous several times. Melissa and Megan didn't die. Not only did they survive, but they also threw themselves into the arms of the man from the 6th floor, becoming his mistresses just to survive this apocalyptic world. But they kept it secret. Hardly anyone knew. However, they couldn't hide it from me. In the surveillance footage, the two were seen cuddling up to that sleazy man without a hint of shame. I knew they would do something like this, so I pulled together the group of mothers I had previously befriended and fiercely spread the word about Melissa and Megan, warning everyone to watch their husbands. I also discreetly shared screenshots of Melissa, Megan, and that man being intimate, sending them to other men. The men were happy, the women were furious. From behind my phone, it was like watching a grand drama unfold, but my enjoyment didn't last long. When the order is no longer restrained by law and morality, the ugliness of human nature surges boundlessly. Perhaps because they were beautiful and unprincipled, Melissa and Megan thrived among men, while the mothers who faced marital betrayal were beaten by their own husbands for targeting Melissa and Megan. One mother, upon catching her husband in the act with Megan, was thrown out of her home and, amidst Megan's triumphant gloating, froze to death. People called the police, but they couldn't get through. In the group chat, Several female homeowners cursed Melissa and Megan in despair, but in the next moment, they suffered the most brutal beatings from their own husbands because of Melissa and Megan's accusations. Watching the videos and photos in the group chat, I was dumbfounded. I never imagined that Melissa and Megan, in the face of interests and survival, would completely abandon their bottom line as human beings. It was terrifying. A world without the restraint of law is truly terrifying. I turned off the surveillance, unable to watch any longer, and stopped posting pictures of food in my social media circles. I knew that even without my involvement, this scene would inevitably play out, and those people's deaths, it can't be blamed on me. But at this moment, my heart still feels uneasy. I began to act like an ostrich, spending my days cooking, cleaning, watching dramas, or playing cards and chess with York. Ever since I woke up in his arms that day, I miraculously found myself in his embrace every morning, and he would look at me, his face showing a helpless expression. Hey, no wonder I've been feeling warmer these days. At first, I was quite embarrassed, but after a few days, I felt completely justified. You eat my food, drink my drinks. So what's wrong with you being my personal heater? When it was time to sleep, I skipped the process of sneaking into his bed after falling asleep and directly stretched my ice-cold feet over, unapologetically resting them on his legs. Little did he know, I dared him to kick me back each time. His body would stiffen like a wooden stake, then slowly, very slowly, he would slide my feet under his legs and press them there. So warm. Desperation leads a dog to leap over a wall, and a person to fight with all their might. Megan is dead. The mothers who couldn't bear the humiliation pretended to submit and flatter, but when the adulterous couple was off guard, they slit the throat of Melissa and the man from the 6th floor with whom she was involved. Melissa's face was disfigured, the mother's hand trembled as she went to strike Melissa, and the knife slashed across her face. The scoundrel managed to break free and tried to subdue his own wife, seeing that she couldn't kill Melissa. In a fit of rage, the mother wildly slashed with the knife, leaving Melissa's face and body gruesomely mutilated. She clutched her face and wailed in agony on the ground. I hated both of them, but seeing them end up like this didn't bring me any joy. How many places and people in this world are currently experiencing the same tragedies? There are deserving and innocent ones in that building, like those adorable children. At this moment, their parents are doing everything they can to protect them, but against those beastly predators, these young parents have limited strength. Buzz, feeling distressed, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was Captain York's number. After York took the call, he told me that his captain would send a helicopter tomorrow to drop off supplies. Supplies? I sat up straight. Is it food? York nodded. And medicine? I grabbed him. York, can we? The words got stuck in my throat, and I couldn't continue. His dark, deep eyes fixed on me. Are you trying to say, can we give these supplies to the neighbors in your previous community? How did you? No, I was surprised. He reached out, gently stroked my head, and his gaze slowly softened. Merowi, do you know that you talk in your sleep? I talk in my sleep. I remembered that nightmare, the strong arms and the warm chest in the dream, and that voice telling me, don't be afraid, he's here. So, you know everything. I straightened up, my tone becoming cold and distant. Yes, I know everything. He nodded. He didn't hide it, saying, also, after you fell asleep, I looked through your phone. He explained that he hadn't meant to invade my privacy. It was just that his team leader had called him after I had fallen asleep, so he had used my phone and unexpectedly found out that people were bad-mouthing me all over. What do you plan to do now? Are you going to take me to court? I was furious, and acted on it, lunging forward to grab him by the collar and dragging him out of the bed. Get out, just leave now. I don't want to see you anymore. He was wearing a coral fleece pajama with a teddy bear pattern, which I had mistakenly ordered for men. Since I was too lazy to return it, I kept it, and ironically, it fit him perfectly. He nodded. I'll leave tomorrow. What? It felt like a thunderclap had exploded right above my head, and I was stunned. You're leaving? Yes, the captain knows I'm healed up. He'll pick me up when he delivers supplies tomorrow. I hadn't even reacted when my body went limp, and I collapsed onto the floor. You're actually leaving? At that moment, I felt a chilling cold throughout my body. Only then did I realize that over these days, I had grown accustomed to his presence, and at some point, I had become dependent on him. I was immersed in his company, accustomed to the warm embrace every night. I had never once thought about him leaving after he recovered. He carried me to the sofa, wrapped me tightly in a blanket, and then, blushing and with some hesitation, he asked, Do you not want me to go? My tears immediately started flowing, but stubbornly, I turned my face away. Not at all. He fell silent. After waiting a long time without a response, I couldn't help but turn back, only to see his eyes filled with sorrow and disappointment, which immediately softened my heart. After a moment of thought, I asked, So, if I don't want you to go, could you stay? His eyes lit up momentarily, then dimmed again, and guilt appeared on his face as he gently shook his head. I can't, I'm a soldier, I have my duties. My brief hope shattered instantly. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. York reached out, clumsily patting me, trying to soothe me to sleep like one would with a child. Instead, it made me even more awake. After a while, I decided to sit up and said to York, How about I tell you a story? I slowly revealed the nightmares of my past life to him. I told him how cowardly I was, how I dared not take revenge directly, and that all I could do was to make those who had wronged me suffer as I had in my previous life, through the possession of supplies that made them targets. I also told him that if Melissa and Megan hadn't maliciously drawn attention to me like they did in the past life, I wouldn't have taken the actions I did. Moreover, I even hid some food in the secret compartment of the cabinet in the other room, which I would give to them if they hadn't intended to harm me this life. I shared so much, so much. York held me tightly and listened silently throughout the whole time, never doubting the bizarre things I told him from beginning to end. After I finished speaking through my sobs, he wiped my tears away and exclaimed, No wonder you've stockpiled so much. He told me that he had suspected something earlier because it wasn't normal for someone to hoard so much specifically, but he could see I wasn't a bad person, so he chose to observe first. Then, there were my nightmares and the secrets hidden in my phone. However, the idea of reincarnation was too absurd, and he found it hard to believe, which is why he had asked those questions through the drama series. He said that my experiences pained him, so whatever decision I made, he would understand. I wiped my tears and half-jokingly said, Weren't you going to leave it to the law to judge? He ruffled my hair a bit annoyed. Looking up at him, I asked seriously, York, will you come back to see me? He looked down. Do you want me to come back? I nodded vigorously. Yes. He smiled then, hugged me tightly, and kissed me passionately, whispering between breaths, Wait for me. The next afternoon, as promised, a helicopter hovered over the rooftop of the building across from us, dropping off a bunch of supplies. The building complex across wasn't large, just 4 buildings, each rooftop was included, and I had already reminded everyone in the group chat the day before. The military would be delivering supplies tomorrow, so make sure to clear the snow from the rooftops. People were skeptical. It was a take it or leave it situation for me. Once the helicopter arrived, there were cheers from that complex, and in my building, people grabbed anything they could from cooking pans to pots and rushed to the rooftop. From the helicopter's loudspeaker came a warning, no scrambling or fighting over supplies, or it won't happen again. The government hasn't abandoned you. The weather service has predicted that the snow will gradually lessen. Keep your spirits up. York looked at the patch I had sewn onto his camouflage uniform, which made him laugh uncontrollably. Seeing me getting annoyed, he quickly added, You did a great job sewing it. I pouted, slipping a sealed bag with my photo into his pocket, and warned fiercely, If you get hurt or don't come back, I'll find myself a new boyfriend immediately. He nodded. I wouldn't dare. I'll definitely come back. Not a single hair less. Not a single hair less. Call me when you can. A message will do too. I will. Leave me messages whenever you miss me, and I'll read them when I can. He kissed me gently on the forehead. You have to miss me, I'll miss you all the time. He nodded repeatedly. The sound of the helicopter grew from distant to near, finally stopping right above us. York hugged me tight and kissed me deeply. Take care of yourself. Wait for me to come back. I nodded hard, fighting back the tears, watching as he opened the door and stepped out onto the balcony. As he climbed the rope ladder dropped from the helicopter, York turned back and gave me one deep, lingering look. He mouthed, Wait for me. To me, I nodded vigorously and waved with a smile. Go ahead, My hero, 24. The heavy snow lasted until March of the following year before it finally stopped. Fortunately, the snow melted slowly, giving people enough time to clear the drainage pipes and canals, allowing for an orderly dispersal of the meltwater. By the time all the snow had melted, it was midsummer. This disaster took many lives, but it also prompted a great deal of reflection among humanity. Everyone realized that protecting the earth, our habitat, and preserving the environment must not be mere lip service. During this period, York came back twice. The first time, he stayed with me for a day; the second time, for 3 days. I was very content. The first time he returned, he brought all his belongings and told me that since he was married, all his possessions should be entrusted to his wife. I was both amused and annoyed at the time. We hadn't even met the parents or registered our marriage, so who was his wife? Unexpectedly, he immediately video called his mother. On the screen, his mother, kind and dignified, told me to call her Mom, which made my face turn bright red with embarrassment. 2 months after the disaster was resolved, York came back for the third time and immediately dragged me out the door. It was my first time stepping outside after the disaster, nearly a year later, and I was a bit scared, but York told me, "Don't be afraid, I'm here for you," and so, I wasn't afraid anymore. Then I realized, he had actually brought me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Even when the marriage certificate was in my hands, I was still dazed. York let me use all the savings from his card to buy this duplex house, saying it was where we fell in love and he hoped we could live here forever. The landlord had also suffered heavy losses in the snow disaster, but when he saw that we wanted to buy the house, he agreed without hesitation. After that, York remained busy, while I was occupied with decorating, moving, and planning the wedding. It was a busy yet fulfilling life full of hope. 25. I saw Melissa again 3 years later. York was with me for a prenatal checkup when, at the hospital entrance, a disheveled woman asked someone nearby for their drink bottle. The person, disgusted, shooed her away. "Go away, you're filthy." She staggered back. Then she saw me, Meroe. I was shocked by the woman with scars all over her face. "You are." Her eyes filled with venomous hatred. She hissed, "Meroe, you ruined me like this. Are you happy now?" She lunged at me crazily, yelling, "Bitch, die." York quickly shielded me behind him and kicked her away. Security at the hospital entrance rushed over, restrained her, and called the police. She screamed, blaming me for leading people to believe she and Megan had supplies, which caused them to turn on her, resulting in her current plight. It was then I realized she was Melissa. I sighed silently, knowing that even before that incident, they were already targets. Indeed, it was they who had first betrayed me. I was just treating her the way she treated me. Why is she unhappy about it? After the police took Melissa away, York supported me as we walked into the hospital. He told me that although Melissa survived, her disfigured face made her a pariah. No one wanted to interact with her anymore. She tried to find a job, but her ruined appearance led to constant rejections. She couldn't even get hired for washing dishes or sweeping streets as people were afraid she might scare others. In the end, her only means of survival was collecting discarded bottles. She blamed me for all of this, and had been looking for me several times in my previous neighborhood. York had kept all this from me to avoid worrying me. Only then did I understand why he insisted on selling our apartment. I was both surprised and touched. Despite his busy schedule, he somehow managed to protect me thoroughly. How did he manage to do that? "Husband, thank you." I threw myself into his arms, sobbing loudly, yet I felt profoundly content. Years ago, on a snowy night filled with nightmares, he told me, "Don't be afraid, I'm here," and he truly was. With him by my side, I really have nothing to fear.